Everybody, tonight we're debating whether or not it's okay for kids to go to drag queen shows, and we are starting right now with Vaush's opening statement. Thanks so much for being with us, Vaush. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, simple answer is depends on the drag queen show, because drag queen shows can be like a lot of different things. The issue is, like, right now we're experiencing pretty near record local inflation. We're dealing with a lot of real civic issues. And I feel like in times like these, there are some people who want to distract from those issues and lock us in an interminable culture war debate over things that don't really mean anything. In this case, we're talking about something that is, I think calling it a bit of a moral panic might even be a bit too charitable here, Now, when it comes to, like, why should people care about this? Where are we deriving this fear from? Well, I know it's not from any studies. There are, to my knowledge, no studies or no collected data on, like, harm done to children due to drag shows. If there are, and I'm about to be blindsided by them, then I will be absolutely astonished. But I don't think that's going to happen. In the absence of those studies, when it comes to explaining how it is harmful for children to be at drag shows, what we often rely on is narrativization. We spin stories about what drag shows are like. We make them sound very scary. We use loaded language to charge people's emotions and direct them against the thing they already have a bias against. But that's the thing. That type of behavior only really works if you have a pre-existing bias. To a person who is terrified of birds, you can narrativize how it's irresponsible to let your children go to the boardwalk because there might be seagulls there, their big cloying mouths and their shriek piercing cries, the, tendency of them to swoop down on tourists and grab French fries, sometimes fighting with the tourist, clawing at their eyes. If a person has a fear of birds, this might be a very compelling argument. But we take kids to the boardwalk anyway. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, what specific elements of drag shows do we think are inappropriate for children? A drag show is just a kind of gender performance. It's wearing costume and affecting behaviors where gender identity or presented identity are like the central themes of the show. The sources of this go back literal millennia. In fact, I believe the term drag is literally taken from tendencies in Old English theater for men to dress up as women in theater parts. This happened all the way back in the Roman days. I mean, this goes back a long time. So why the panic now, right? Now, personally, I think it's because folks are scared of gender nonconformity, scared of gay people, scared of trans people, and want to fearmonger over them the same way they have been for a really long time, just standard screeching degeneracy, no thought, no wisdom, no introspection, just screech, screech. But if we were to say, this or that is inappropriate for children, what characteristics are we looking for? I'm sure there are some drag shows that are inappropriate for kids. I've been to some of them. And then there are some that are like PG, G even, the only possible harm, the only thing insipid about them, or harmful that you could think of, really, is just the fact that there's something that a lot of people aren't comfortable with, which is drag clothing. But it's not really an argument, right? It's a free country. Discomfort with something doesn't mean that you should be able to bar people's children from being there. I don't like seafood. I don't think you should keep children from going to seafood restaurants. Anyway, those are my arguments. Go right ahead.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening, Vosh. And if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, folks, want to let you know we are a neutral debate channel hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. We hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, as we have many more debates coming up. For example, one this weekend, whether or not science is more compatible with atheism or theism. You don't want to miss it. That's at the bottom right of your screen. And with that, Alex Stein, thanks for being with us. The floor
basically
is all yours.
The same. Okay, well, and I just want to start off by saying I think Vosh made a good point. There is a little bit of what I call gay panic that's a little, overdone right now. And, I'm considered conservative. And ever since I went to the Drag Your Kids to Pride event where kids are being sexualized and tipping the women like, or the drag queens like strippers, I'm getting a lot of outrage where people are sending me normal drag brunches. And I'm like, come on, I don't want to go to a normal drag brunch. I think the focus of this is a drag event that is focused towards children. So, in that sense, I do think we're going a little too far because I have a libertarian mindset when it comes to that. If you want to be a drag queen, I think that's totally okay. See, for me, where it becomes a problem, because the problem is right now we have a society that's over-sexualizing our young people. And I think it was different when we were young. When I would go on the internet, I had 56K modem, and I didn't get it till I think I was like 14 or 15. So we had a Playboy magazine that we'd like pass around. But now with the invention of the internet and with the cell phone, a kid is on an iPad, they can literally type in boobs and they can find, all kinds of disgusting stuff, right? So they have more access to pornography now. So I think just overall society is sexualizing children. Now, the reason why there's a panic going on with, kids going to drag shows is, for me, I think the worst part about it is the sexual imprinting that it will have on a young kid's mind. I still remember one of the first times that I was ever attracted to a woman. I remember it was the movie Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. At the beginning of the movie, the girl was in a bra. And I remember being sexually aroused. And that was a young thing. I don't know. And I remember losing my virginity like it was yesterday. And that was a long time ago because I'm a pimp on a blimp. But that's neither here nor there. So what I'm saying is your first sexual experiences are often very memorable, a lot different than like the sexual experiences that I had in college, So the reason why is because your brain is very malleable. These things imprint on your brain. So the reason why the sexual drag show for a child is not okay is because, first of all, we shouldn't sexualize children. The same reason there's an age to drink alcohol, the same reason there's an age to go to the military, this is the same reason there's age requirements for anything. There should be an age requirement for a kid to go to a drag show, because when a kid goes to a drag show and they see a man dressed as a woman in a thong, in breasts, they might organically become sexually aroused. And then later on in life, they find out that was a man, and now they might have sexual confusion. And I think we live in a world where a lot of people have sexual confusion because they've been desensitized by all the sexualization that's around them. So for me, it is the long-term effects of the desensitization of young kids' sexual experiences by going to an adult drag show. Now, you could say, oh, well, a kid going to Hooters is bad too. I don't necessarily think young kids should go to Hooters. I don't think young kids should be sexualized. I mean, should there be a limit? In states, there's age of consent laws. Maybe you could argue that when they're at the age of consent law, they could go to a drag show. But the one that I went to had very young kids. I'm talking about toddlers, 5-6-year-olds that were on their video game, handheld Nintendos, and the parents were putting them down and making them watch the drag queen. So this is the problem: is we have a society now where parents are using children as like social media clout in order to transition them, in order to, over sexualize them because they're trying to fix some sort of trauma that happens in their life. And I think Bill Maher, who's a huge leftist, he made a very good point. The amount of kids that are transitioning and on gender hormone therapy in Los Angeles compared to Ohio is, it's like 10,000 times more. I'm just saying that number generally, but it's a lot more. The reason why is because having a trans kid is a lot like having a vegan cat. It's the parents making the decision. So the problem, and how this connects to the drag your kids to Pride event, is these kids aren't making the decision. It's their parents. These kids don't have the ability to get in their car and drive there. They don't even know what they're going to. I remember my mom would take me to the mall. I would hate it. I mean, much less my mom never dragged me to a drag queen story time, thank God. But this is another reason. So in my experience, when I went to the drag your kids to Pride event, where it was a drag race or whatever you want to call it, a drag event for children, it was very unusual because there was glass doors where normally they'd have windows. And there were protesters outside. I was one of them, but they covered up the windows with paper, like trying to hide the event. So if everything was in there was just so kosher and, non-sexual and not a big deal, I don't think they would have to hide in the shadows and do this. So for me, it's just wrong on all levels, letting a young person see this and get sexually confused. And then later on in life, they might have sexual confusion because your first experiences with any sort of sexual, whether it's an actual sexual experience or seeing pornography or seeing anything, overtly sexual on a TV or movie, it does imprint some sort of memory on your brain that's different than when you're older and you're more desensitized to it because you're extra sensitive to it the younger you are. So since you're more sensitive to the content that you're seeing at a younger age, it has more of a damage to your mind. So that's why we need to protect young kids and not take them to drag shows. That's why there should be legislation where we outlaw that. And I'm not saying we should outlaw drag shows. You can have drag shows all day long. Go ahead. I mean, I'm all about that libertarian mindset. I think that's totally okay. I think, there is a little bit of over panic against the LGBTQ community, but I think that's because the LGBTQ community is becoming, so ingratiated in everyday's lives. And this is the problem: is there's no difference between me and a gay man except for who they have sex with. You know what I mean? And so I don't understand where we define people by what they do in their bedroom. I don't care if you're gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual. I really don't care. I like you all the same. It's just your whole identity should not be what you do sexually. So that's the problem with these events, is that we're using a very sexual connotation a drag show where kids are tipping them as if they're a stripper. That's what happens at these drag events, these drag brunches. You tip them like you're simulating a strip club. I wouldn't be okay with a young kid going to a heterosexual strip club, much less a place where they're going to be sexually confused because they might be attracted, because some of these drag queens, they're so effective with their makeup, they're so effective with their synthetic breasts and their thongs. You could very easily be confused. So it's that confusion and that sensitivity of their brain and their sexual experiences is why we have to protect kids at all costs from them going to these events. Now, listen, I'm not going to attack you. I don't want to get into like an ad hominem attack where I attack you. But oh gosh, sorry, I don't know. I meant to turn off my, sorry. I'm getting a super chat. I thought I turned him off. I apologize. Okay, sorry about that. Let me delete that alert box. Okay, what I'm saying, back to my point, is we're having a society where young kids are being the victim of child grooming. Now you can say, oh, well, that's a conspiracy. Yet you look at Disney movies today compared to Disney movies in the past, when they talk about, the same sex relationships in those that they'll keep here in America, but they take out oftentimes in China and in these other foreign countries. In Saudi Arabia, they don't post the rainbow flag. So my problem is that we have a culture and corporations that don't have the ability to feel empathy, that are taking advantage of young kids and basically brainwashing them into a mindset of sexual confusion that they might not be ready for. And that I know at a young age, being 5, 6, 7 years old, I was not ready to hang out at a bar that's, for adults. And that's oftentimes where these drag brunches are. They're at bars because they serve alcohol. So we need to, as a society, stand up for our children, because I think they're the biggest victim of the child grooming. That's obvious. And now you can say, you look at all the teachers that have been caught sexually grooming children. You look at all of the people in the Catholic Church that have been caught sexually grooming children. You look at the border crisis, there's all kinds of sex trafficking. You look at Dennis Hastert, who was Speaker of the House, was a pedophile. You look at Jeffrey Epstein, who flew on the Lolita Express with Bill Clinton 26 times with no Secret Service. You look at Huma Abedin's husband, Anthony Weiner, was sexting young children. He went to jail for it. So there's people in high, powerful positions. Ketanji Brown Jackson, her resume is very lax on people that are convicted of child pornography. So I don't really think it is a conspiracy in my mind, even though I'm a conspiracy theorist, that there are people in powerful positions that are trying to sexualize our children. So for me, we have to do whatever we can to protect them and keep them away from drag shows, because that is just a slippery slope where it's going to be more sexual exploitation and more sexual confusion for young people that are super sensitive to the content that they're seeing.
Got it. Thank you very much for that opening statement. We're going to kick it into open discussion. Our guests are linked in the description. If you'd like to hear more, you certainly can by clicking on those links below to hear more about their views. Thanks very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
All right. Well, I've got a lot to respond to there. Unfortunately, 90% of it wasn't about the subject at hand. This is what I mean, unfortunately, about narrativization. There's a lot of stuff that you threw in there that, is about as meaningful as you might get from like a random word generator. Sexual confusion, for example. You're going to need to sell me pretty hard on the idea that there is some kind of social cancer associated with children seeing men dressed as women and finding them hot, and then later realizing they were in drag and getting damaged by it. That's just, I don't know if this is a self-report thing. I just don't consider this like a thing even worth thinking about. This is, I leave to the contours of the brains of the people who experience this very strange problem. I leave them to their own issues. You threw in there that trans youth are more common in California than in, I believe, Ohio. Obviously. Trans youth are more likely to make it known that they're trans if they know their parents are supportive, or if they know what trans people are. And awareness of what trans people are and that you can share that with your friends and family is usually what leads people to come out as trans. Ohio has presumably fewer trans-friendly parents than California does, so that makes total sense. We see similar patterns happening in other parts of the world. We saw the same happen with a lot of other things, like being gay, for example, or even left-handedness, about 100 years ago. So we have that. I guess I want to get back to the drag thing, because you didn't tell me what about the drag shows you didn't like. So you said like the kids giving the people money. Well, you can give like buskers money, you know, on 3rd Street Promenade in Los Angeles, or I'm sorry, in Santa Monica. Like there are people out there pretending to be robot men with like silver paint all over their skin, or who are playing the guitar, and like people will give their kids dollar bills to hand to the, you know, the person who's busking or performing or whatever. I don't know if there's anything weird about that necessarily. If there's like a drag show that's very like sexual and everyone's like super dressed down or whatever, I think that's inappropriate for kids, but that's not most drag shows, certainly not the ones marketed towards children. Like the drag queen story hour thing, for example, you know, conservatives are so up in arms about this that the Texas GOP named them in their list of priorities in 2022. And every time I see a picture from drag queen story hour, it's somebody wearing like more clothing than I am now. They're wearing more clothing than you are now. Like they're wearing like mountains of clothing. It's basically just a Halloween costume. You know, cons just don't like it because there's like a gender element there, but that's not linked to any harm. There's not like any way to substantiate harm being done there. I agree that we should protect children from adverse social effects, but the thing is, if you're going to make a psychiatric case for this, like there has to be some kind of evidence. We know that it's harmful, for example, like to sexualize children by making them the sexual object. Like, for example, if there's a child who's being like told to perform or dance, whatever, I think that can be pretty bad. Or like the idea of like grooming, like when an older person is trying to like come on to a younger person, or try to like prepare them for exploitation, that's obviously very bad. But cons use grooming so ubiquitously now that grooming includes like seeing a guy in a dress. And that's just, I mean, you know, that's just very silly. And it goes back to the narrativization thing. You know, if you're afraid of birds, that sounds scary, but that's a you thing, you know?
Yeah, well, okay. I'll just address a couple of things you said. I think at the beginning you said of what you just said. You know, there's no proof that sexualization of a child would affect them later on in life. I believe.
Wait. I didn't say that. I just said that sexualization of a kid would be negative for them.
Well, but what was the first thing you said? Because I was talking about how it has long-term effects. And you said there's no studies that would find that it would have
the idea of it being harmful for a kid to see a guy in a dress and think they're cute, but then later realize they're a guy and be damaged by that is a completely fictitious fragment of your or somebody you know's psyche being projected into this conversation.
This is why I would disagree with that. So if somebody was molested by their priest, by a male priest, you know, at a young age, maybe they were touched sexually by a male. Do you think that would cause sexual confusion later on in life?
What does molestation have to do with seeing a guy in a dress? How are these related? Well,
because it's not just seeing a guy in a dress.
I think Hiroshima was bad too, in case you were going to ask me.
That's not what these drag queen shows are, Vosh. Just with all due respect.
You said seeing a drag queen and finding them hot, which kids find. I mean, kids can find people hot. You know, I know when I was like in elementary school, I thought my teacher was hot, whatever. And then like they realize, first of all, I don't know how the kid would be if they're at a drag show. I think they know it's a drag show, but even if they didn't like know or whatever, or if they just saw a drag queen walking in the street like during a festival or something, I had no idea, and then like later they realize it was drag and that hurt them. I don't get that. I like, this seems made up.
So you don't think sexual abuse at a young age has like
wait, no, I keep saying something and then you're like, okay, well, you do realize the Holocaust was bad, right?
No,
we're not talking about sexual abuse. We're talking about finding.
This is what I'm saying. Well, here, let me just say this point.
Use the words that I use, not like your.
Well, you use so much word salad.
It's hard.
It's hard to repeat it. But this is my point being, is that these people, when they go to these events, it's not like you said tipping a busker outside, like you're tipping somebody playing the piano or playing the guitar in the street. It's not that. Oftentimes, it's simulating like a strip club. And I'm sure you've been to a strip club. You put money in their G-string. You put money in their clothes, and it's a very sexual connotation. So it's not the same as out on the street putting a dollar bill into a hat. Would you?
But agree? I don't think most of these drag shows are having kids walk up and like put dollar bills in these G-strings.
You didn't.
Usually,
watch
people
my
in
video.
drag are wearing a lot of clothes. No. I'm not saying it doesn't. Bad things happen everywhere. I'm sure there are drag shows that have happened, which I believe are irresponsible. But you're talking about all drag shows and children. And mind you, the point we're on right now isn't the tipping. It's on the sexual confusion thing. I don't get that. How does it harm a kid to see or to be attracted to like a drag queen or whatever? Then later they're like, oh, it was a drag queen. Like, what's the sexual confusion?
Would you argue that you're more sexually sensitive at a younger age and that you get desensitized towards sex as you get older? Would you agree with that, Vosh?
I don't know what that means exactly. I think that you're more confused about what you want.
Vosh,
Sensitive is a very...
With all due respect, With all due respect,
wait,
you understand what that
absolutely.
means.
Wait, hold on, because it depends.
Okay.
It depends what you mean by sensitive. Because if by sensitive you mean like susceptible to, then the answer is no. I'm way, way, way more perceptive of sexual influences as an adult than I am as a kid.
Let's
broad
make it
term.
easy. Let's make it easy. The more times you see a breast, the first time you see a breast, is your brain have a bigger chemical reaction than the 1,000th time you've seen a pair of breasts.
I imagine I remember it being pretty cool the first time I saw tits.
That's exactly my point, Vosh.
But I would have been zero. My mom would have been breastfeeding me.
Listen, what I'm saying is we're not talking about the time, and we know that you were raised on formula, Vosh. We can tell. That's not a big deal. You don't have to.
Wait. I was sorry.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. Were you a formula
wait,
baby?
hold on.
I
Listen,
was a breast baby.
if you had to wait till you were 18 to see a titty, that's on you, okay? Listen, I didn't
wait till
early,
18. I remember my first titty like it was yesterday. That's my point.
I didn't even have a prefrontal cortex developed when I saw my first titty. And I guess I don't feel like getting breastfed naturally by my mother led to me having, negative confusion down the line. I don't get it. Like you see a drag queen. Let's not all drag queens are like guys dressed up like girls or whatever, but a lot of them are. You see that like, oh, they're cute. Then later you think they're a drag queen. Where's the harm? What's the harm? Where is the harm? Like what psychiatric damage would you be able to identify as a product of that?
I just think it'd be very simple because people would have sexual confusion later on in life. People are very insecure. Most people are insecure, right? And so let's say later on in life, they realize, oh, well, I was attracted. One of my first sexual experiences was being attracted to a man that was dressed as a woman. I personally think that have long-term effects similar to that of if you were molested by a person of the same sex or even an opposite sex.
And why do you think that?
Because your first sexual experiences can, if they're like traumatic or you didn't want them to happen, they weren't by your choice, like a parent dragging you to a drag show, it can oftentimes be, very traumatic is my point. So
if you met someone who was molested as a kid and you would be like, oh yeah, dude, I felt that. When I was 6 years old, I saw a drag queen and they were hot. And then later I realized they were a drag queen.
Well,
that's molestation. Isn't that kind of downplaying molestation massively? Like, isn't that kind of grossly disrespectful to victims? I don't think so. No, I don't think so at all. I think by exposing kids even to pornography is a form of molestation. And I think that this would be a sexualization of people wearing clothes that is very sexual. So, yeah, I would think this is a form. Is it as bad? We're only talking about finding them attractive,
spectrum
not about sexual clothing.
I think there's a spectrum of molestation. There's worse molestation. I'm just saying all molestation is bad, but I'm saying it can be worse. There's forms of molestation that are worse than other forms. So I think this
would be a form of molestation which involves no contact whatsoever. That's a pretty powerful telekinetic molestation.
You don't have to physically. If I was to expose my genitals to somebody, that is a form of molestation. You don't have to touch them. Would you? Yeah. Agree?
Well, we're talking about fully clothed people here, so I don't feel. Yeah, like
but they're not necessarily fully clothed. I wouldn't consider a thong fully clothed. I mean,
we're not talking about. I've been to drag shows. Thongs are by far not the most common, and I've yet to see, by the way, a drag show from any of these right-wing ops undercover of like a drag show where anyone was wearing a thong. Usually their thighs are exposed. I can show you.
I can pull it. I mean,
if you find, hey, listen,
let's call it a bikini cut. Let's call it a bikini cut then.
Well, when I was a young kid. If you find me that though, then I'll disagree with it. But you're the one attacking drag queens as a concept here.
No, and I don't want to attack drag queens as a concept. I actually said that drag queens are fine. I don't want children to experience drag shows when they're too young. I think that they should wait to be of age because I think that it has long-lasting traumatic effects.
Can you point to any evidence of that? Because we have evidence that actual molestation, the word when used correctly, is harmful to children. Quite a bit of it.
I'm not using the word. If your parents drag you to an event that you did not choose to go to,
no, you're narrativizing again. Alex,
I'm not narrativizing. So do you think these children are getting in their cars that they can't legally drive and going and finding and seeking out these drag events on their own? Or do you think they're being taken there by adults?
You're not getting me off topic. Adults choose every place children go to, obviously.
Exactly. So if a kid doesn't get to choose where they get sexualized, that's a form of...
Respond 1 sec.
We're only talking about you saying that seeing a drag queen, just maybe like 50 feet away, thinking they're hot, and then later realizing they're a drag queen.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying at a drag show. I'm not saying 50 feet away across the street.
50 feet away. At a drag show,
you're much closer. Well, what I saw is the kids were touching the drag queens. They were sashaying. No, it wasn't 50 feet across the street. A drag show, you're not 50 feet away.
Gentlemen, all right, I do have to jump in just to reset it.
Yeah, I just want to say, Alex, first of all, let me remind you of what you're saying here, okay? Because you keep running to different topics, like you're scared of the one you brought up. Okay?
I'm not scared of any topic. You're trying to change the topic
to molestation.
Yes.
To see a drag queen as a child
at a drag event, not just walking down the street.
So wait,
we're talking about going to a drag show. I'm not talking about, you just see a drag queen, you see Tu Wong Fu or whatever.
What would prevent that from happening?
Going to
just
a drag
out on
show
the street. If the issue is just seeing them, wait, Alex, please, you have to know what you're responding to.
Let me clarify what I mean.
Alex,
you're not helping me. I'm trying to tell you what I mean.
Intervals, guys. Just because it's like there's continual talking.
You're trying to change what I'm
Alex,
trying to say.
Alex, just for people to be able to hear you guys, I can give you guys 2 minutes.
I just want to lay out what he said so he can explain it to me. I just want to be educated by Alex. I never said about
across the street, Vosh. I never said that.
You said that. Looking at a trans, or sorry, not a trans person,
a drag show.
A drag
looking
queen.
at a drag show. Let's
so
looking at a drag queen at a drag show.
This effect of sexual confusion, of being errantly attracted to a drag queen, then later realizing they're a drag queen and being confused, that can only happen at a drag show, but it can't happen if you just see a drag queen outside on a smoke break. It's not possible for that to happen to a children.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's more likely to happen at these drag events where they're up.
Are they like cognito hazards? They just like wound children in their presence?
Listen, Vosh, I get what you're trying to do, but I'm talking about a kid at a drag show where they're tipping them and they're 2 feet from the drag queen, not just seeing a drag queen.
Wait, no, we're not talking about tipping. We're talking about you comparing. Alex, you're doing it again. We're just talking about the sexual confusion thing.
You know what I'm talking about.
No, because you keep talking about other things. We're talking about the sexual confusion.
Let me make it clear. This is a sexual implantation. When you go to it, when a child goes to a drag show and they tip the drag queen and they're interacting with the drag queen. That is what I'm talking about. That is a sexual implantation. I don't understand how you cannot understand that. I'm not talking about walking a street 50 feet away. I'm talking about the kids that are going to a drag show, like the topic of this debate, why that is bad. So and I know that you understand what I'm saying. So you're trying to, distract from it.
What if they
it doesn't matter. It's talking about going to a drag show and experiencing the event up close and personal.
Why talk about
not just
tipping?
Walking by them at a street. Because tipping's a big part of drag shows. If you're such an expert of drag shows, you know that's a big part of it. They get tipped money. Do you agree with that?
I go to adult drag shows. I don't go to kid drag shows.
Do they tip them?
Often, no. I've been to ones where they don't. Usually the stage is too high for you to even throw money up. It just flutters in the air. Look, so if tipping's not the relevant part there, so I don't know.
The relevant part is going to the drag show, Vosh. The relevant part is kids being exposed to drag queens at a drag show. That's the relevant part.
Where the harm is coming from, because I thought you were saying the harm is coming from merely being attracted to a drag queen as a kid, which can happen regardless of the context in which you see a drag queen. It can happen anywhere. It can happen from the TV. Like that's not the same. The harm is much worse when you're ingratiated inside of a bar that's for people that are 21 and up that you couldn't even. Why do you keep adding things that aren't the drag queen bit? You're like,
this is a drag queen bit. Drag events happen at 21 and up of places. That is where they.
What if it's not at a 21 and up place? And there's no tipping involved?
It usually is. Other than drag queen story time, and in those situations, they don't tip, but still they're interacting up close with the drag queen.
That's not at all necessarily true. Kid-friendly drag events aren't like the centerpiece of drag events generally, but when they happen, they can be hosted in all sorts of places. So what's even the issue with it being like a bar? Like if they clear out the alcohol, it's just a room.
Well,
right?
They didn't clear out the alcohol if they've been in Dallas. Their parents are still drinking. So I don't think that's okay.
I haven't been to Dallas. Parents can drink at like a restaurant with their kids there. I'm just saying like the kids can't get at the alcohol. I don't know what the issue is with like the place normally being 21 plus. My dad had beers when I would go with him to like.
I understand your dad had beers. I'm sure he had a lot of beers. I can tell. But what I'm saying is, it's not
about
what your dad.
Wait, Alex, hold on. If we want to, what are we? If we want to get into ad homs here, okay? I'm holding. I just said
I can tell you. You're talking about yourself.
I'm touching you with a feather duster right now, Alex. I'm going easy and slow for you.
I agreed with you, Vosh, and that's not an ad hominem attack. I said your dad probably had a lot of beers. What are you complaining about?
Your dad's a hard-working union man. Overall,
I know, and I'm sure he is. I'm not even saying. I'm just saying.
He's got to keep.
You just said my dad had beers, and I said I'm sure your dad had a lot of beers, and all of a sudden you got triggered. Why are you
running away from the implication?
I'm not running away. I want to talk about this thing. What you're trying to do is you're trying to run away. You're not even letting me speak, Vosh. That's the thing. I'm not a weasel at all. I'm standing up for what I believe in, and I'm saying and speaking the truth, and I'm trying to clarify everything so that you understand in a very. See, Vosh, you're trying to do this because you know that you're wrong. You know that it's not okay for kids.
I don't even know how kids are getting harmed here. I still don't even know. So I
Vosh,
agree.
You don't understand how kids are being harmed when they're at it. Yes. Okay. So you agree that drag shows are inappropriate.
If they're like stripper shows, basically, and there are some drag shows that are like basically strip shows, but almost every one that I've been to as an adult, for ones that kids can't get into, usually has them wearing more clothing than I'm currently wearing, dressing the same way that you'd see, like, I don't know, Britney Spears dress in a music video, which I guess like is sexually charged. I mean, Britney Spears was a sex icon for a good portion of her career, but I don't think that you could say like, yeah, children are being done harm comparable to molestation when they see something like that in person. I've seen a lot of these shows play out, you know, people doing a little dance. I mean, what? Because they're dressed up? I don't get it. I don't get where the harm's
coming from. Are they dancing sexually? Are they gyrating in a sexual manner when you see them
gyrating dance? Like Elvis?
No, can they do like Elvis? Like Britney Spears. They're dropping it to the flow. You know what they're doing. They're twerking that booty. They're shaking it up and down, around and around. You know, I know you're trying to play cute. You're trying to.
I know you're thinking of it. Are you trying to make me think of this the way you're thinking of this right now?
No, I just know what happens. You're acting like these drag queens just. What I'm saying, Vosh, you act like these drag queens just stand up there and just, you know, do a stand-up comedy routine or something. They don't do that.
Funny.
They go up there and they shake their breasts and ass for money. That's what happens at these events.
I've been to a drag stand-up comedy, but actually,
I'm sure they exist. They do, but that's not what this is. We're not talking about drag comedy shows.
Performativity of the outfit. You don't have to dance about
drag shows where they're dancing and they're shaking their butts, simulating at being like a strip club. And I have videos to prove it. And you admit that.
Referring to skimpy outfits and sexual dancing. So that's what. So all this other shit about like tipping and sexual confusion.
Do you think as a kid do they get attracted if they see like on a playground, if they see up a girl's skirt? Would a kid get attracted to that? Just seeing up a girl's skirt?
You keep asking me questions about what kids get attracted to, but I guess when I was a kid, yeah, I would have found it cute to see a.
So do you think it's okay for a drag queen in a skirt to lift up their skirt, even if they have a bathing suit bottom under, even if they're fully covered, just an insinuation that they're lifting up their skirt when they dance? Do you think that that's sexual and that a kid could accidentally get attracted to that? Is that possible, Vosh?
Like that, like the Madonna thing where she like puts her skirt down from the wind, but it blows up. Well, you know what I'm referring to? You don't look that old. You probably okay. Yeah,
Marilyn Monroe. Yes, where the event goes up.
I mean,
there's a lot of drags that dress in Marilyn Monroe where they lift up their dress and do that. That's actually a common thing at drag events.
Yeah, I guess that can happen. I don't necessarily know if that's bad. I mean,
you're telling me a kid seeing a simulated upskirt that you just said would you be attracted to at a young age? That's not bad. Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to think. I feel like every movie from the 1980s would now be comparable to molesting in your eyes. Because like the level of like sexual suggestiveness that you're referring to is ubiquitous in a ton of media, like Grease. I mean, like if you go back, I'm worried that I could go back and watch like Seinfeld episodes with a moderate Republican and they'd be like, okay, this episode right here, this is child grooming. And it's like, because at one point, like a girl does like a sexy dance because she's like the girl of the episode or something.
That's not, you're comparing apples and oranges.
Well, what is the apple?
I'm talking about at a drag show. If a girl lifts up her dress or the drag queen lifts up their dress, even if they have full undergarments on, it can be it can have a sexual connotation to it. And a kid can have lasting effects similar to that if somebody were to expose their genitals to a child.
I absolutely do not believe that doing a sexy dance is in any way comparable to flashing somebody. I have no idea where you would get that from.
Well, because there's videos of drag queens. I can even pull them up, but I don't want to get a strike on YouTube, where they have the synthetic breasts, and there's a viral video where they're shaking them up and down with no coverage. And because the synthetic breasts look so real, they look like real breasts. So that does happen where they're literally simulating being naked, dancing in front of children. Was
this in front of kids?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, then I think that could be pretty. Okay, so we found a thing we agree on. I don't think that should happen at kid-friendly drag shows.
Well, we agree.
Well, I get there we go. But I've yet to go to a drag show, adult or child friendly.
I'll pull it up. I don't want. We can't show it on YouTube, but I'll pull it up right now. I'll find it and pull it up.
Look,
but what
there
I'm
are
saying is,
lots of things in our society that I think are inappropriate to expose children to that we commonly accept are. You know, child beauty pageants, which are pretty common. Let's be fair, in red states, are definitely one of them. I do not like the kid dance drag thing. I don't like kids being expected to model it in any way, shape, or form. I think that shit gets really, really gross. Hooters has always been.
I agree with
weird.
you on that. I think stage moms take it too far as well. I think that's another parental issue where the kids aren't making the choice themselves. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Most of this stuff. I mean, if a kid's in these environments, it's almost always going to be at least partially influenced by what their parent wants. I think it's important to like have conversations about these things, but I don't know if you'll cap to it or whatever, but we got to be real. Like a lot of this is about the gay trans panic thing, you know.
Yeah, but see, I agree with you on that. Vosh, let me cut you off. I agree with you. I think there's way too much gay panic or whatever you say. I agree with you 100%. But see, that's the problem with this. It gets convoluted because there are drag shows that are now being more targeted towards children. I'm fine with drag shows. And that's what I'm saying on the conservative side. Now, because I went viral going to this thing, all these people send me regular drag queen stuff. Oh, you should go there and expose them. I'm like, dude, I don't care. This is a drag show for adults. Let them do it. Let them have fun. I would even go. I mean, I'm saying I don't care. I don't have any problem with the drag show. I want to make that clear. I have no transphobia, no homophobia. I literally don't. I have gay family members that I love, with all my heart. So I don't have any problem with that. But I do agree with you. Now, a lot of the ultra Christian conservatives have a huge problem with it. And I think that gets overshadowed because, listen, one group of a political party can make the rest of it look bad. It's like, I'm not QAnon. I'm a conspiracy theorist, but everybody says you're QAnon. So if you say you're conservative, everybody thinks you're part of like the Christian far right. I'm not. And I do think there is some gay panic in the Christian far right. For sure. But I would tell you, just as a person that's on that side, that leans towards that side, that's actually a lot less than you think. And it gets more attention than it should because we have massive problems here in America with inflation, gas prices, the border. I mean, there's a litany of issues that America is facing, and this gets all of our attention. And I actually personally feel a little guilty because the biggest problem in America, I mean, drag shows, kids going to drag shows, it's not a good thing. But that's probably not the worst problem. That's a parental problem. We need to overall fix.
I'm glad we agree it's not the worst problem. I mean, at the end of the day here, it doesn't really matter what you say because the only harm to children you've been able to define is something which is specific to drag shows, which you claim is the confusion they would feel if they don't realize a person they're attracted to is in drag, but then they do.
But it can be more than that.
That's like, but that's a clear specific thing. You couldn't apply that.
No, I can't because this a kid can become sexualized earlier, and then that might. I don't think a kid. I don't think a kid becomes sexualized if they see like someone dancing flirty. Like I saw middle school when I was in middle school, there was like the cheerleaders or whatever, and their dances were kind of they'd sashay their hips or whatever. But I feel like I don't know if that harmed anyone. I think they were just dancing. A lot of dancing just involves moving your hips around. Like dancing. Well, I would argue that people of your same age. Like in middle school and you're in middle school, that's okay. But when you're in middle school and you're seeing adults, these drag queens aren't oftentimes middle schoolers. They're adults. But
those cheerleaders would have had to be trained by their adult cheerleader trainer.
Yes, but you're still at least being organically attracted to people your age. You're not being attracted to adults, which is not child and children and adults should not be having any sort of sexual relationship whatsoever.
It's not dancing
being
around
sexualized.
Other people isn't a sexual relationship. I don't think I don't think that's a sexual relationship.
Lifting up your skirt, and when you're at a drag show and they lift up their skirt and they twerk, that is sexual. It is similar to a cheerleader, but it's much different because it's being done by an adult that is of age when it's illegal for them to do any sort of sexual things with a child. That's why this is just cut and dry. It's not. Wait,
sexual relationship is not being in a proximate space while one person does a dance that would have been acceptable in a PG movie in the 80s. I don't buy that that's like a sexual relationship. Not only do you have adult cheerleaders at sports games who thousands of people can watch from pretty close up, and they're often dressed far more skimpy than you would see on like a drag queen, but also those cheerleaders in middle school would have had to have been trained by an adult former cheerleader who would have had to have been doing those dances in front of the kids in order to teach them to do those dances in front of an audience of children and adults. Like,
yeah, but it's not in a sexual manner. You're trying to say a cheerleading routine is the same as a drag show, and that's provably false.
Wait, you're right. I've seen cheerleading routines way more risque than like parts of drag shows that I've been to. That is 100% true. And they wear less clothing. Drag shows, usually they're wearing like, 15 pounds of clothing because it's part of their ostentatious wardrobe. But the cheerleaders are wearing.
Yeah, but Lady Gaga can wear 15 pounds of clothing and still show her sex and still show her breasts and vagina can still be accentuated in a manner. It doesn't matter how much clothes they have on. A lot of times the extra clothes actually accentuate the sexual organs or the parts that a kid could accidentally be attracted to. So just because they're wearing a lot of stuff doesn't mean that their genitals are not able to be seen. Doesn't mean their butt is not able to be seen. It doesn't mean their cleavage is not able to be seen just because they have big shoulder pads.
I think it's okay.
Accentuate the sexual parts.
I think it's okay to dance while having cleavage around children. I guess I feel like we'd have to rewrite the fundamentals of society. We'd have to like segment everyone the way they like the way they segment like men and women in like Orthodox churches to the children, the adults. Like, are we worried about this really? Like, what about all the Super Bowl halftime shows that we look at? Like, is all of this grooming? Is all this sexual confusion? Is everything like all like not?
Are you asking me this Hollywood
Sesame Street level?
Are you asking me this Hollywood sexualized stuff and groom children? Yes, I would argue.
No,
yes.
Well, don't equivocate. We know Hollywood people have a, let's say, a rough history, but talking about like halftime shows or like 80s TV series,
that halftime shows that are put on by agents and managers and choreographers that are Hollywood, yes, I would say.
Wait, the kids who watch that are being molested because they're seeing like
probably you could argue maybe slightly molested, like
no, you can't argue that. Well, I guess you can argue whatever you want. It's a free country, but
yeah, I
mean, that's insane.
Well, just look at Janet Jackson when Justin Timberlake exposed her boobs, and people went crazy about that because they didn't want children seeing a woman breast with a pasty. You wouldn't let a little kid go to a strip club because they have strip clubs where they have to have pasties and a thong on. Well, you wouldn't let a kid see that. So why would you want to see that at the halftime show?
They got an FCC fine for that.
Which they should, which makes sense because
so
in
that
society,
wasn't even
we don't want to
deliberate
sexualize
part
our
of the
children.
routine. And also, I don't like nobody, like no children around the world were hurt by some kind of fucking wardrobe malfunction.
You don't know that.
See,
Vosh, you don't know that because it can have a domino. Let me just finish my point. You don't know
domino
that
effect?
It can have no. Listen, it could have a domino effect because now they're like, oh, inquisitive. I'm curious. I saw a boob. Now they want to see more boobs. So now they're going to figure out ways to find stuff. Before you're exposed to sex, you don't really know about it. You don't even. So once you get exposed to it, then you want to find more information about it, and then you have friends, and then you just you have a more sexualized mindset.
So wait, so far,
that can be almost poisonous.
So far, nothing you've described is abnormal. That is literally biologically how we're wired. Everything that you just described is literally how we were functioned, like designed to function.
Yeah, but we're not function. Adults are not supposed to sexualize children. That's by law. You know that.
Sexualizing children would mean that children are the ones being sexualized, not children watched a sexy dance.
Children being exposed to sex without them choosing it is a form of sexualization.
They're being exposed to people doing dances where people shake their hips.
In a sexual manner, or seeing breasts, or seeing sexual organs.
You realize this would implicate almost every human to have ever lived, right? Like maybe you're. Wait, hold on. Do you think that you're like molesting children around you if you're out on the street with your wife and you like pull her in for a deep kiss and you like put your arm around her waist? That's a pretty intimate gesture right there.
No.
Wait, how not?
I don't think kissing your wife in public is the same as showing your cleavage in a sexual manner where you're trying to be overtly sexual. I think it's a lot different than a kid.
With a deep kiss, you can absolutely be making an effort to be overtly sexual. And
then I agree with you. I don't think kids should be seeing people just make out French kissing everywhere either. I mean,
so like
I just don't think kids.
Yeah.
I don't think kids should be exposed to sex at a young age without.
That's not sex. It's a deep kiss. That's sex is
You're
a different thing.
You're trying to compare apples and oranges at these.
No, you've had sex. Wait, I know you've had sex before. There's more that goes into it.
I've never had sex. Let
me explain. Okay, if you deep kissing is at least 3 or 4 stages behind sex in public. All right, I don't know how like. It's like any cleavage, any like shaking your hips, like all this now, any halftime show. Kids can't watch Eurovision. Well, that's Europeans. Thank God they don't. Can't watch Dancing with the Stars. Like actually, I'm struggling to think of a single dance competition now that you wouldn't consider to be a form of molestation. Do you think you might be inventing harm where it doesn't exist? There's no psychological.
First of all, Dancing with the Stars is not the same as a drag show. It's not the same because you're watching that. First of all, and seeing it on television is not good, but we're talking about drag shows, seeing it in person, simulating sex, tipping it. And that's the point of the debate. And that's why it's not okay for kids to be there.
The point of it, though. And you also said that there'd be like a form of molestation just to see it over TV.
You said buskers is like, oh, it's the same as tipping a busker, some band playing outside on the promenade. It's not the same. You're tipping them in a manner that's simulating being at a strip club. So it's not the same.
You're not always tipping, but if you are, I don't think there's anything wrong with tipping. You're saying the problem is the sexual behavior, but what you define as sexual behavior would seem to encompass like 40% of all media ever produced by humanity. So
No,
and Dancing with the Stars, by the way, Dancing with the Stars gets very risque. Okay, yeah, I'm not out there watching all the Queen shows or whatever, but they get pretty down and dirty. They get pretty horny over there.
Just put it this way. You've watched RuPaul's Drag Race, correct?
Actually, no, I have. I've seen screenshots.
You've seen probably clips of it. Would you? And I guess you're probably not going to answer this honestly, but do you think RuPaul's Drag Race has more sexual jokes and sexual connotations than Dancing with the Stars?
Sexual jokes? Absolutely. The performances themselves, though, I think are more sexual. And actually, from what I've seen, I think RuPaul's isn't like marketed as an all ages thing, but the jokes, it's more jokey drama, catty bitch shit there. But in terms of the performances themselves, I'm pretty sure Dancing with the Stars regularly has like more lascivious dancing than the stuff the RuPaul, because every time I see the RuPaul drag queens doing something, it's some stupid bullshit, they're like some jokey shit to prime up drama between all the catty gays.
No,
I guess the jokes are
I've seen RuPaul Drag Race. I mean, I like reality TV, so I've seen it. I'm just telling you, there is more of a sexual connotation in a drag show than Dancing with the Stars. ABC has a thing called standards and practices. They have to be very careful with what they expose children to, and they're a lot less lenient than RuPaul's Drag Race, which is on cable. That's just reality TV.
I'm pretty sure I've seen some Dancing with the Stars couples that have danced, and they're basically
but Vosh, we're not arguing about Dancing with the Stars. We're talking about kids in drag shows. I know. You're trying to obfuscate what's really happening.
The opposite.
We know.
The problem is like
we know that, and you admitted this, but let's just admit you admitted that there are some drag shows that kids should not go to. Correct?
There are lots of things that I think kids should go to. Of course, what I'm saying is, I think fit in that.
Well, let's just come to it. Listen, I like to debate, and I like to do it in a friendly manner. I think you're doing it in a friendly manner. I don't want to be, rude. What I'm saying is, we should come to some sort of agreement that you do agree that some drag shows are too sexual for children. Is that correct?
Yeah, but yes, but to be clear, I would feel that way about almost any type of media, like any medium. I would think that there are some things in there that I think are unacceptable for kids. Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to coalesce this argument so we can.
But this is the issue. You frame it like this isn't like a targeted thing or whatever. But the problem is that, as far as I can tell, when you get past all the external fluff, your definition of sexual content here that's inappropriate for children would extend to a significant portion of popular media. But the drag shows with kids at them are what gets fixated on. No, well, you talk about like cleavage and shaking your butt. How do you like? I'm pretty sure almost all modern dance anythings are going to involve some kind of butt shaking. Your hips and legs are some of the most powerful muscles in your body. Gyrating your hips is how you position yourself from like a lot of dance moves. I did Lindy Hop back a couple of years ago. You got to.
I'm going to say it's both not good, but do you think going to a strip club has more of an effect on your psyche than seeing a movie with a strip club scene in it? Do you think that one is more affects you differently?
Like as a kid?
Yes.
I don't have a good point of comparison because I've never been to a strip club as a kid. It would depend on how bad the shit is in the movie. It would probably be more impactful in person. Actually, I'm not going to lie though. I really feel like if I was a kid in a strip club, the worst part of that wouldn't be the women on stage. It would be the guys. Like, from what the times
I agree. I think it'd be weird guys too in a strip club. There's
that for me would be the main, because like if there's a chick on stage like in a fucking underwear or whatever, like okay, I think that's inappropriate for kids, but like the guys there can be some grody fucking weirdos. That I think would be the main issue for me. More
we
so
disagree on that, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, I think it's the effect of seeing it as in person, live and in person, like going to a drag show. It has a bigger effect than just seeing it in the media. So that's why I don't.
But you're talking about a strip club again. But drag shows aren't strip clubs.
But they simulate a strip club with the tipping.
You keep
and the
saying that, but I've been to ones
they
where
do.
they
I'm
don't.
telling you, Vosh.
I've been to drag shows.
And we can argue semantics. I know. Well, not every drag show is the same. There's drag comedy shows. I agree that not all drag shows are exactly the same.
Okay,
but overwhelmingly, they tip at shows. That's why they go there. What if we
isolate
that's a common thing at, I would say, 90% of drag shows.
So let me isolate the variables here. What if the drag show is these drag queens up there on stage telling jokes to a crowd, and there are kids there, and the kids can tip by going up and putting money in a little like black box that's on the side of the stage, which is what tends to happen with drag shows, because again, you don't put dollar bills in the thong strings of drag queens.
Do you think a drag comedy show, that comedy would be appropriate for children, or do you think the comedy would tend to be more adult?
Well, if this is a kids accessible drag show, I would assume this comedy would be accessible to
So you think the
kids.
drag queens are like, oh, these graham crackers. What do you guys think about these graham crackers? Or do you, I mean, what do you think?
We can't. We're isolating variables. We can't be like, I'm like, okay, so this is the thing, and you're like, well, what if it's another thing? Like, it's a comedy show. The drag queens are they're like fully dressed. They're just dressed in their, peacocking outfits or whatever. And the kids, if they want, can go up and put money in this little black box.
You made a good point. Well, real quick, the peacocking though is, and that term is used for somebody that's seeking attention, correct?
Drag queens are absolutely seeking attention. Have you seen how they dress?
Well, of course. So that's my point, is the way they dress is in order to seek attention to their sexual organs for young kids.
No, whoa. You were doing fine. No. Seek attention. Yes. To their organs for young kids. No.
You don't think they showcase their breasts because they want to feminize? No, I'm not, because these are men that want to feminize their bodies so they look like women. So that's why they accentuate their female sex organs. That's part of the drag genre.
What do you mean by accentuate?
They accentuate their breasts. They accentuate their butts. They oftentimes put implants so their butts are bigger and more like a woman's butt.
So they look like what people think of as a woman. Yeah.
Agree. And they try to showcase those parts, the sexual parts of a woman.
Do you think having breasts is sexualizing nearby children?
I think showing the breasts, not having them, showcasing them.
So I said fully dressed. These drag queens, you can look up drag queen stories.
When you say fully dressed, does that mean their nipples covered? Because they still show cleavage.
They're dressed.
Do you think they're in a Hillary Clinton business suit, Vosh? Have you ever seen a drag queen in a Hillary Clinton business suit?
Yes, I have seen drag queens in pantsuits. It's not that uncommon.
That's not very common.
It is.
Vosh.
Yes, I promise.
No, it's
not.
I don't want to argue that, but that's not the common. That's not the common outfit of drag queens.
Fully dressed. So there's nothing like they're just wearing, like, you can look up drag queen story hour. These people are like in a dress, like they're dressed. They're not like wearing pasties with like holes cut out of their dresses or whatever. They're dressed. So do you think in that environment, this would be like harmful to children?
Yes, because it's a sexual confusion, because they might not know that person's a biological male.
This is what I mean. Why. You claim this is a ubiquitous criticism you have, but at the end of the day, your real criticism is just you don't like it when men dress as women, which is fundamentally an attack.
I don't mind if men dress like women. I think it's totally okay for men to dress as women, just not in front of children. You shouldn't expose children to that. Because they don't have the ability to know what's going on. They're not choosing to go there on their own accord. They're not getting in their cars and driving there. So they're getting taken there not by choice. And if they're choosing that, then they're very confused, and they're being exposed to something that is very inorganic, very synthetic, that is not natural, and that could harm them potentially.
First of all,
in the future.
So a couple of things. First of all, young people don't choose to do anything. Like if you're 8, your parents pretty much decide where you're going to. I don't know why that's like made to be unique here. Obviously, like I never chose to go to the dentist or chose to go to the grocery store. Like, yeah, they're
just like
kids.
a kid doesn't choose to get molested. It's the same. It's in the same vein.
What? Stop. I don't know why your mind is on that. We're nowhere near that. We're miles away.
I think
you
and I would disagree. I think we're very close to molestation.
That's because you think it's molestation for a kid to see a guy in a dress, which is insane. And
in a sexual manner, yeah, I think without them choosing.
We didn't say sexual manner. We only said dressed up as a woman.
A drag show, Vosh, you're trying to argue that drag shows do not have a sexual connotation. I think we have to agree that drag shows have a sexual manner. If you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, it's a lot about sexuality and sex.
Well, RuPaul's Drag Race is a TV show. You can't bring kids to it, as I understand it. I'm talking about a non-sexualized drag queen. You can literally look up drag queen. I just did. And most of the people I'm looking at right now are dressed in ostentatious, but not at all sexual outfits. In fact, I would say the minority that I'm looking at, and this is with my Google search history, okay? With all my gay shit or whatever, the minority of the drag queens that I'm looking at right now are dressed in anything I would consider sexual.
Boss, if I Googled right now, can men get pregnant? Google would say yes. So just because you looked at Google, I don't trust Google. So
is that what you were reaching for the 20 seconds I was? Okay, look.
No, I'm just telling you, you're talking about Google, but Google's not the end all be all. If you Google, can men get pregnant? Google says yes. So
I'm
go figure.
At trans or drag queens who are not dressed sexually. So if we had one of those around children, you think that would be like molesting them because the kid might get confused or something?
Yes.
can you, just for my small brain, can you explain to me where the harm is coming from that isn't because you're afraid of birds?
Well, first of all, drag queens and birds are totally different. When I was a young kid, I used to get nervous when I would go on big bridges with my dad. I'd be like, Dad, we're driving on a big bridge. That's a little different, because you need to get used to going on bridges. You need to get used to going around birds. There's some things your parents need to expose you to that you might be scared of. Now, being made to be exposed to transgender drag queens is not a thing that I think is the same as a bird or stuff that.
Explain the harm in a way that
because you're over sexualizing children. Now you're exposing them to something that they're not ready for. Their brain is not mature enough to handle.
You lost it already. We're not sexualizing the children. They're around fully dressed, non-sexually dressed people who are in drag. The children are not getting sexualized in any way here.
I'm talking about at a drag show is what I'm talking about. Now,
I am also talking about a drag show.
Yeah, I think that's why it's bad for the kids to go to the drag show, because their brains are not able. They're not, they're not done.
Not
forming,
able
so
to.
it's too young.
Not able to what?
To comprehend what's fully going on.
It's not able to comprehend a man who is dressed as a woman.
Yes,
this was the subject of like.
They might not
subject
know.
of like Bugs Bunny cartoons 100 years ago or something.
They might not know what they're looking at, so they could have sexual confusion. I think it can have an effect. You're saying it has. You're saying it has no effect.
Never know what they're looking at.
But do you really believe that,
Vosh?
I'm saying, do you believe if a young kid sees, you like to isolate stuff, they do see the drag queen that's in a thong dancing around, and because you didn't.
We're not talking about thongs. We're talking about non-sexual outfits, fully dressed. I don't know why you keep
at a drag show. Because I'm not running from that, because oftentimes these drag events are sexualized. That's just common sense.
Okay, but
dude.
You're saying that this is still a problem when they're non-sexualized. So I don't see why you keep running back to the thongs or whatever. Like, if the issue is,
what do you mean when they're non-sexual? Dude, I don't think kids should be exposed to drag queens at too young of an age. That's my problem here. When they're old enough, yes, they can go all they want.
Harm in a way that a psychiatrist
the sexual implantation and sexual confusion that can have on them later on in life.
What does that mean?
That means that they might not realize what they're looking at. They might think it is a woman, and then they find out that it's a man, and it oftentimes can create sexual confusion. That's a fact. That's
any
the thing
evidence
that's possible.
It's a fact. Is there any evidence of this?
You don't think people have ever been tricked by a transgender person in your life?
Wait, no. Don't run. Is there any evidence of
I'm saying,
harm
do you think
done?
Yes. Okay. Did you ever watch the Jerry Springer show?
Harm being done.
I'm saying one of the biggest things on the Jerry Springer show, even though the show is probably fake. Yeah, but let me tell you something.
Realizing their drag.
Yes, there's a lot of harm because people didn't realize that they just had a gay relationship that they weren't consenting
by
to.
Looking at them?
By being attracted to them, yes, you're being attracted to a man, and you don't know it. You're being you're being
you realize that your argument here would apply to feminine-looking men, right? Not even drag. If you were a feminine or androgynous-looking guy, that you would also probably have people look at you and think you're attractive, not realizing that you're a guy.
That's not.
Yes, it is. This is
not saying for an androgynous person with long hair. I'm talking about a drag show where people are simulating being the opposite sex, and they are sexually confusing children that might not understand what they're fully looking at.
Have you never seen a guy who looks like a girl, kind of like a hot guy who like has
no? I've never thought a guy is hot personally. No.
Well, I mean, then why are the drag queens so confusing to you?
They're not confusing to me. They're confusing to young children, Vosh.
So as a young child, did you ever see a guy and think it was a girl?
No, I never went to drag shows as a child.
No,
that's probably why I don't have
day-to-day life, Alex. Like in outside.
The first time I was ever exposed to drag, I remember it was the movie Tu Wong Fu.
No, Alex.
And I was old enough to understand what that was. My mom explained it to me, and it wasn't
being outside and you see someone who you find attractive, and then you realize that they're a guy, even though you think you're attracted to women.
I think that could have some sort of effect on a person. Yes.
Okay, so you agree then that your argument would apply to feminine men and androgynous people, like David Bowie types?
I can no, not even close. I'm talking about not androgynous people. I'm talking about people that are buying synthetic breasts and putting in butt implants to look like a female.
You're only talking about being attracted, being a kid and being attracted to someone you think is a woman, and then it turns out that they're a guy. That doesn't have to involve drag. Your argument, if applied consistently, would be an argument that any gender nonconforming, androgynous, or feminine guy outside would be molesting the children around them, because those children would have the possibility of finding them attractive as a perceived woman, and then realizing maybe as they turned around or heard their voice that they were a guy.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, Alex, I'm helping you.
You're trying to tell me what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
I am telling you what you're saying. I'm reading it back to you.
That's not what I'm saying. Vaush, that's not what I'm saying. A kid just seeing an androgynous person is not the same as going to a drag show and simulating sex and tipping them like a strip club and getting sexually confused.
Adding stuff. You keep adding. You're saying
at a drag show, they dance and they do it in a sexual manner. That's common sense.
What if they're doing,
we can't even. What I'm saying is, I'm talking about drag shows. If they're doing stand-up,
I've been to drag shows, Alex. I know what they look
and
like.
And I've been to them, and I've exposed them, and I've seen them being sexualized to children
with the explicit intention of finding clips that you can put online to monetize people's outrage. I've been to them to have fun. I promise you, there are lots of different types of drag shows, and your argument is an argument against feminine guys, androgynous guys.
That's not true. I don't care. Guys. It's not gender nonconforming people. I'm talking about drag queens. I'm not talking about androgynous looking people, shims, he, hims, whatever you want to call it.
Can't that confusion happen? Like if you're like a young
people
kid
get confused? Yes, people can get confused about everything. They can get confused, vice versa with somebody that's transitioned the opposite way.
Wouldn't that lead to sexual
from
confusion?
Female to male. That they can be confused. So I'm not saying that sexual confusion doesn't exist. I'm talking about parents dragging their kids to drag shows without their consent when they don't want to go and look at women or men, whatever you want to call it, drag queens dancing in a sexualized manner. That's where I have an issue with.
Keep adding.
Not just walking down the street or CVS and seeing the androgynous cashier. I don't think that has the same effect.
All drag is gender nonconformity on a stage with presumably bright colors. That tends to be involved. The sexual stuff you're adding is optional. The tipping is optional. The kids being there is optional. The sexual dancing is optional. Drag fundamentally is only gender nonconformity as a presentation. So when you talk about, so the reason I'm trying to isolate the variables here is because your argument that it is sexual confusion inducing and thus tantamount to molestation for a kid to get confused about the sex of the person they're looking at, that can happen anywhere. It's not a drag specific thing. And since drag is nothing more than flamboyant gender nonconformity, you're essentially just attacking the most ostentatious example of what you think the real issue is, which is any
the real issue is
behavior.
Drag shows. The real issue is drag shows, not seeing androgynous people at the grocery store.
You said it was molestation.
To go to a drag show where they did not choose, and to see people that sashay on a dance floor and for them to tip them like as if they were at a strip club. That's where I have a problem. I don't care if they're at the grocery store and they see an androgynous person. That does not have the same effect.
Why not? So let's say
because it's not done in a sexual manner. It's not done without their choice.
Let me put you in my shoes, okay? If we could, okay? There I am, a strapping young lad of 10. I'm quite tall, back at that age, big lad. And I'm going to the grocery store with my mom, of course. I'm not going there on my own. And I see a person there. I see them from behind. All right, they're wearing yoga pants and a crop top T-shirt. That exposes maybe 4 or 5 inches of their stomach. And from behind, they're very hot. They have long, straight black hair, very attractive. Now, I'm a strapping young kid of 10, all right? I'm very attracted to this fat ass that I'm looking at. But later, it turns out, as this person turns around in a situation that I did not consent to be in, I did not want to go grocery shopping. This is a guy. They were just a guy, just a feminine guy wearing, all this. Now, in that moment, I did experience, because I didn't realize I liked men at the time yet, I did experience a kind of, as I realized, I was into this person who I thought was
Vosh, that's my whole entire point. Is that realization that you had was a little confusing? Would you agree that it was a little confusing?
So you would agree this isn't about drag? It's about
no, it is about drag. I think it's the drag
in the
no,
because
the drag is where they're exposed to it. I'm just saying that is where they're more likely to have that sexual confusion. It's more likely to happen at a drag show that their parents drag them to that has a sexual connotation than just going to CVS or going to Ralph's.
The logical extension of your argument would apply.
I'm not talking about logical extensions. I'm talking about.
I know you're not
drag shows. I'm talking about drag shows.
I know we don't want to talk about logic here. We just want to talk about drag shows.
No, you want to play logic games. I don't have time for logic games. I'm trying to talk about.
I'm solving Rubik's cubes in my head right now.
Yeah, I know you're playing logic games. I'm not trying to play mind games, dude. I'm cut and dry. I want to be very binary, ones and zeros. Drag shows, not good for kids because it causes that same thing that in your brain happened. Oh, this is a little confusion. And now you might grow up and you might be bisexual.
Well,
do you think that could have had Vosh? Do you think that could have had an effect on you later becoming bisexual?
Nothing could have stopped me from fucking men. There was no force in the world that could have changed that. I would have had to have died before I turned 15 for that to not be the case.
And I cheerlead you to do that. I think you should have all the gay heterosexual that you want. I don't think that's bad, or even a lot of people on the right. Oh, that's so immoral. I'm a libertarian. You can do whatever you want. I just don't think it should happen to children. Do you understand my argument? I wasn't
hurt. Like just seeing that what happened to me in that grocery store is the thing I think that's happened probably to a lot of young people, where you see a person who you think is attractive from a certain angle, and then you see them at a different angle and they're not the sex or gender or whatever that you thought they were. But you, like what you just said to me, oh, that's a bit of gender confusion. Do you think that might have been what turned you bi? But the conservative rhetoric right now is about preventing any pervasive social influences that turn people gay or trans. The logic you're suggesting right now is that the mere existence of gender nonconforming people are a corrosive force.
No,
something that turned
I've not said
gay.
that, and that's not how I feel, Vosh.
You asked
don't put words in my mouth.
It contributed to turning me bi.
Well, I'm trying to ask you that. Yeah, I don't think that that's the case for every single person. But I'm saying, I'm trying to ask you as that example that you were using. Do you think that it had
things like that can make people more likely to be bi?
I think that it's possible. Yes.
Do you think children should be put in situations where they're exposed to people that may make them more likely to be bi?
I don't think people should be exposed to sexual situations. Now, I don't, if they. Whether a person's sexual orientation, I don't think that matters. They can be exposed to gay, straight people. I don't think that that's bad. I think it's the sexualization of the drag show that is bad. You see what I'm saying?
But you said the confusion that I experienced when that guy in the grocery store turned around. That was like
I said it's possible. I said that's possible. That could have an effect. I think that's. I mean, would you agree that that's possible?
Well, so if you say it's not impossible that it has an effect, then you are saying that exposure to gender nonconforming people can elicit homosexuality.
I said that's a possibility. Yeah, I think being exposed to homosexual stuff at a young age could make you a homosexual later on in life. I do think.
Okay, so then is that not an argument that conservatives would use in order to remove any exposure to gay or trans people or gender nonconforming people because it's corrupting the children? That's what they did in Florida. The Don't Say Gay bill was literally about.
Yeah, the bill doesn't anywhere in that says don't say
no,
gay.
It says preventing people talking about sexuality, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I'm sure that little Mrs. Pennycock is going to refrain from calling her husband.
But Vosh, if we want to talk about the Don't Say Gay bill real quick, this is what's different. When you and I were in school, our teachers didn't have a Facebook profile. They didn't have an Instagram. I didn't know my teacher's personal life. So it's now in this day and age, a kid knows everything about their teacher's personal life. So they're being exposed to their relationship, to their husbands, to their gay relationship, straight relationship.
If they look them up.
So yeah, which oftentimes kids do because the kids are extremely online.
But kids can look up anything. They can look up titties.
Of course. You and I didn't have the ability to look up our teachers' gay crews when we were young. We didn't have that ability. So that's different. So that's why they're trying to protect kids from the over-sexualization of their personal lives.
Their Facebook profile pictures of their teachers? Couldn't they just...
Because they don't need to be involved in their personal sexual matters. That's
wey're
why.
They're not involved. Wait,
because
they're not involved
this is what
in
I
their
argue.
personal
That a gay person and a straight person is no different. This is Vosh. Let me make this. I don't think a gay person and a straight person are any different other than who they choose to have sex with. So we shouldn't define people by what they do in their bedroom. We should define people by what they do, how they conduct themselves in the classroom. So we shouldn't talk with our students or young kids about their sex lives. That's normal. That's not crazy.
You're not talking about your sex life with your students if you are a gay teacher and you mention that you have a husband. I knew a fair amount about the partners of my teachers when I was young because it just comes up in kindergarten class. Like everyone in the classroom is a fucking moron. Like the teacher will be like, "How was everyone's weekend?" And the kids will be, "I'm good." And then the teacher will be, "Oh, I had a good time. What did you do?" And it's like, "Oh, my husband." And then like, bam, the fucking Florida cops come in to shoot her twice in the back of the head.
That's not what's going to happen, Vosh.
Hold on.
You're just so ingenuine when you say that.
Wait,
you're exaggerating and you're being, inauthentic.
No, that's happening every minute. So,
there's cops running in with guns because the teacher said they had a relationship with their husband. False.
No, you're right. I'm sorry. The idea of cops running into a school with guns is ludicrous given recent.
And I agree. I think they wouldn't run in. You and I agree with that. It is ludicrous. They should have done more. But I'm just saying, listen, I don't even even dislike you. I'm not even trying to say, and I'm not even anti-gay or anti-trans.
No, I love you too, Alex.
What I'm saying is I just, my point being, dude, at the end of the day, is I don't like the sexualization of children at sexualized events that they're not choosing to go to. Now, if they see an androgynous person at the grocery store, that's going to happen. That's life. There's gay and straight people. I think there's a big population of our community that is LGBTQI++, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that that's a thing. We have to protect kids and they can't ever see a gay person. That's not what I feel. I'm talking about specific drag events that tend to be more sexual. And so I agree. A teacher talking about being married to a woman, I don't even think that's a big deal. I'm talking about sex. I'm talking about sexualized things. I think we should protect kids from that until they are old enough to make that decision. And that can be at the age of consent in whatever states are, whether it's 17, 16, 18. I don't know. Every state has different rules.
A non-sexualized
you might know better than me.
Show, it's okay.
What I'm talking about is, no, I don't think sexualized children, even a non-sexualized drag show, kids should be at, because it always has a sexual, because it's a sexual confusion thing. It's a weird,
you can't,
it's an
keep doing this.
Thing.
You can't say it's about the sexualization. And I'm like, what about a non-sexualized drag show? And you're like, well, no, it's actually about the gender.
Because it's always based in sex, because sex and gender are very similar. And so it's people that are doing non-gender conforming. So that's why it causes confusion, because it's people playing make-believe. Now, people have been doing this forever. Shakespeare, they would have the male actors play
kids
women.
love the goofy
I agree.
costumes.
I agree. And that's why when you do this at a young age, when their minds are super sensitive, it can have effects later on in life. And that's why we need to protect
mascots at theme parks, or like people
mascots
dressed up as
are
other
different
characters?
than a drag
Should we
queen.
not do Halloween? No, because I'm saying non-sexualized drag queen, and you're like, well, the confusion, dude. Trust me, kids are way more confused by what the fuck mascots are at Disneyland than they ever will be by drag queens. That's a very simple one. What's a drag? Oh, well, that's a guy in a dress. Oh, okay, cool. He's got a lot of makeup on. What's a mascot? Is there another person in there? Like, kids get freaked out by that. Kids get freaked out by mascots. That shit's nightmare fuel. People stay up. Kids stay up late at night. Five Nights at Freddy's is literally a hit.
Yeah, I agree. People are scared of clowns. You said people are scared of birds. That's different than going to a place they didn't choose to go to and simulating like they're at a strip club with drag queens. It's different.
But you said even if it's non-sexualized drag, that it's still harmful. So all the strip club stuff
because it's
matter.
An adult theme. It's too adult for children.
What is
There's
adult
a reason why
about
there's
a
age
guy
restrictions.
dressing up as a girl?
In a bar, I think you have to be 21, and oftentimes these are at bars. So I don't
just
think you should have children in bars.
They don't let the kids drink. It's just a
building. When I was 18 and I was in college, I wanted to go into bars so bad. They wouldn't let me, but they're going to let in 7 and 8 year olds. No, not okay.
So that's the issue, is the idea of a mixed use venue.
I'm just saying these are adult venues where little kids should not be at, whether it's drag queen comedy hour or drag queen thong hour. It's not okay for little children to be exposed to that
so it's
at a
not
young
about
age
the bar.
When they didn't
it's about
choose.
So again, non-sexual drag show in a non-typically 21 or older venue. Let's say an exhibition hall, or like a hotel exhibition conference room that was rented out, which is normally available to people of all ages if you can pay the fee. Is that harmful to kids?
Even if the venue is not just necessarily an adult venue, but the themes are adult. If it has an adult theme for young children, that is harmful.
What theme?
The theme of sexual confusion and non-gender, whatever conformity, whatever you want to call it. I don't know whatever word salad you want to use it with all your logic games. I'm talking about men dressed in a sexualized manner to insinuate to be sexualized women. Kids should not be exposed to that. Whether it's at a church, whether it's at a bingo hall, whether it's at a hotel. I don't believe that drag can ever be considered non-sexual when its main focus is about changing your sex from male to female or female to male. So it's impossible for a drag show inherently to not be non-sexual. Do you see what I'm saying?
Costume.
But a sexual costume, Vosh. It's different than a jack-o'-lantern costume. It's different than a Jason.
You realize that
it is a costume where you're changing your gender, you're changing your sex.
You realize a common Halloween costume is literally just dressing up as the other sex, right? Like in middle school, 3 of the football guys from my was it football? I think it was football. From my guys, they all dressed up in like blonde wigs and had like fake tits or whatever. and they were like, I guess they would have been like 12 or 13 or something, and they spent the entire day like raucously yelling and throwing fucking rocks at their friends or whatever and doing girl voices or whatever. Is that molestation? Or I didn't think there was anything weird about it at the time. Like, in terms of how sexual,
I think that is a little weird. Yeah, I think it's
men.
weird for 12-year-olds to probably dress in drag. Yes.
So in terms of how weird it was up there with like a person putting 2 basketballs in their shirt and pretending they had big tits, which I think I saw kids doing when they were 8. If that's sexual confusion, molestation, gender nonconformity, or whatever, then again, like, this applies to almost everything. Like, this is everywhere, all over the place.
Well, it's very nuanced, Vosh. I don't think you understand nuance very well. Is that certain situations can be different, where you can be more sexual and less sexual. Now, a kid putting a basketball in his belly and being, "Oh, I'm a pregnant woman." I don't think that's inherently as sexual as a young kid putting on a dress and sashaying all day around class. I think they're a little different.
Well, okay, what if the kid's just sashaying without the dress? Which, again,
they're allowed to sashay. That's fine.
So wait, how does the addition of the dress make it more sexual? That's not even changing their perceived
because you're
sex.
changing your sex. You're changing your sex. That's why it's more sexual, bud. It's that simple. It's that cut and dry.
So I keep telling you that your argument is just fundamentally one against gender nonconformity, and you keep saying yes, it is. But then when I point out that that's what your argument is, you're like, no, it's not. You're saying, so here's the line here.
I'm talking. You keep on changing the subject.
So no. Wait, just let me just get the line.
But I'm saying
here.
When young kids wear dresses, that's not necessarily great either. I think that can cause sexual confusion for them as well.
Any kind of gender nonconforming behavior in public, which would include trans people, because trans people literally change their sex, not for costume, would be tantamount to projecting an AOE grooming field on their environment. In such an environment, in a world where people's like mainline thought towards child groomers is, when do I get to shoot them? This logic is essentially just a genocidal call to action against trans or gender nonconforming people. It's the argument that the mere act of gender nonconformity through act or presentation is sufficient to elicit confusion to children around you, which is a kind of molestation. It's like you're accusing us of being like anime villains. Like we're projecting.
That's not what I'm doing at all. And just think about how many words you had to say there to make no point. With all due respect. Words. Well, I know, but you're just wasting them. We don't need to. Listen, I like the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. I understand you want to play logic games. You want to try to compare apples and oranges. I'm talking about kids at drag shows being sexualized in events that they did not choose to go to that have adult themes. I think that is not okay.
And what you keep doing is running back to all the preloaded conceptions that you've said, and then I strip them apart one by one to find
you haven't stripped them apart. You said that
isn't with the drag show.
Vosh, that's why you're being ingenuine. That's why you're being disingenuous. No. Vosh, you said that there are drag shows that are too sexual for children. Do you agree?
Of course. There are plenty of things too sexual for children.
Then you and I would argue that I think most shows are too sexual for kids. You think some are okay for kids. So in a way, we kind of agree that kids shouldn't go to certain. I think kids shouldn't go to all drag shows. You think kids shouldn't just go to some drag shows. If we can deduce all of this.
This would be like you arguing that children shouldn't be allowed to view any kind of dancing in public. I remember going to the Renaissance
No.
Well, no.
Vosh, let's just get to the lecture at hand. Let's get to the please, Vosh, because we have to wrap this up. Listen, Vosh, I can't do this dance all
for a kid
day.
Audience or whatever.
Vosh,
but I would never
I
go
don't
like
want. I
because
don't
some
want
of
to
those
just
exist.
Vosh, listen. Let's just quit playing games. I don't have time for all the cutesy.
I'm done with the games. I've set my deck of cards down.
We're done with the games. Let's just get to where we can agree to disagree, and then we can move on to the open questions, because I'm sure there's a lot of them. You agree that some drag shows are too sexual for children. Not all, but some. I think 99% of drag shows are too sexual for children. So I think that point we can just agree to disagree. Now we can compare non-binary people at the grocery store. We can talk about students all day long. The debate is about drag shows. And I think we've made it very clear where you stand on it and where I stand on it. So, I mean, I think we should move on personally, because we're butting heads at this point, comparing apples and oranges. And honestly, I'm a busy man. I don't have time to just do that.
Of course. What 1% are you okay with?
The 1%, maybe the drag queen story times. I guess sometimes when they're dressed in pantsuits. How about that?
Would that not elicit the same sexual confusion?
It could, but it's possible. I'm just talking about that because I believe in percentages. I'm sure there's somewhere out there that's not the worst thing possible. But I think overwhelmingly they are bad and not meant to be for children. Now, you would disagree. You would say that there's just a small percentage that are bad for children. So at the end of the day, we both agree that there's some drag shows that kids are not okay to go to. So I can live with that. If you can live with that, I think we move on.
Well, there's a pretty wide gap between our relative percentages.
But
the
still,
issue here
we
is
still
that,
at least agree. We still at least similarly agree.
I mean,
there are some drag shows that kids shouldn't go to, and I'm okay with that.
This is like a person who's like believes the Holocaust was just, saying that like we similarly agree, because I think like one Jewish guy who like murdered his wife should be put on death row.
No, the Holocaust is bad.
You believe one person,
Vosh,
I believe
don't
6
bring up the
million.
Holocaust. Seriously, we're on YouTube.
No, just a funny little comparison.
It's not funny. The Holocaust is not funny. The Holocaust is not funny.
Whoa, I didn't say the Holocaust was funny. I said that the comparison between the situation here and
comparing anything to the Holocaust is not wacky and funny to me.
Oh, okay. I didn't know we were sensitive here. Fine. Anyway,
I'm not sensitive. I just don't think that's wacky and funny. I apologize.
think that a comedian's job is to offend in a way that challenges.
I agree. Oh my God, I agree. I agree. I love offensive humor.
You love Ricky? Okay, good. I thought we
great.
disagreed on this for a second. All right, okay. Anyway, look, gender nonconformity is not the thing that makes drag shows potentially harmful to kids. It just isn't. There are things that can, there are absolutely drag shows that are inappropriate for kids. And I think, it's important to like be able to identify that. I don't think that this need be like a super, it's just not that interesting of a conversation at the end of the day, I think, because I feel like it's just a proxy issue. Like a lot of people who have these positions on drag queens, just like they have issues with trans people. That's real. It's a broader thing.
Yes, but I don't.
Maybe
I know,
not you, Alex. I would never accuse you of that.
I appreciate that.
And
I think there's people on the right that do. I agree with you. I think there's a lot of gay panic and gay outrage that is unnecessary, and I think it makes people look bad, because I would argue that every single person alive has a gay family member or a gay, somebody gay within their life that's probably important to them. So we shouldn't hate gay people for their sexual choices. I don't think so. I don't think that's bad at all. People say, "Oh, you're homophobic, you're transphobic." I'm not at all. I actually encourage people. I want to lift up people that feel like they're being denigrated by society, and I mean that, whether it's trans or gay people. I just don't want kids to have to be exposed to stuff that I consider adult themed until they're an adult. That's it. I don't think kids should smoke cigarettes. I don't think kids should drink alcohol. I think they should wait till they be of age and they consent to sexual connotation type stuff.
Oh, I don't suppose you're of the opinion that, say, like a gay couple kissing on TV would constitute something inappropriate for children.
That's not necessarily bad, but then you look at these Disney movies where now they're inserting, even in Disney's own head of programming said, we're going to put in polysexual, polyamorous couples. We're going to put in pansexual characters, and that her daughter's pansexual. So I do think that is, I just think it's a little, I think it's done, not organically. It's done inorganically.
It's you're a libertarian. They're a business. They're doing whatever they think will give them the best market share in the long run.
Well, exactly. And this is the problem. I think multinational companies, corporations are actually inherently evil. I think Apple computers, Apple, iPhones, when you look at them and their business practices, they have suicide nets at their Foxconn, factories in China because their employees are so overwhelmed. They jump off buildings. And so they put bigger and stronger nets instead of helping them and give them a better life and pay them more money. So I think inherently companies are evil personally. So if they're doing evil stuff to kids, I think that's evil.
I completely agree. I'm a communist. I believe that the leaders of these companies, the shareholders, should be put on tribunal and they should be seized by the workers who work at them. I hope that, if that's not too radical for you, obviously. I don't know if having gay people in movies is quite tribunal level, but there's definitely some wacky stuff corporations get around to up there.
That's all I'm saying. I agree with you that. I think these corporations are doing a little wacky, a little weird, peculiar things.
Yeah, wacky.
Arguably a good point to go into the Q&A. Want to say, folks, if you happen to have a question, if you tag me with @ModernDayDebate in the live chat, that'll help me see your question. Although I've got to tell you, we've got a lot in the list so far, so we're going to start, and we're going to go fast. Bezos' anti-bullying agency says, whatever side we're on, kids do not belong in strip clubs with signs that say, quote, "It ain't gonna lick itself." That is grooming and exploitative. I think that's for you, Vosh.
Yeah. Well, I agree they shouldn't be in strip clubs. That one what was it? Things Shouldn't Lick Itself was pretty inappropriately positioned for that kid-friendly drag show. Outside of that, though, I saw videos from the event and I didn't see anything inappropriate there. Just looks like that was a holdover from the bar they took the space from. I agree, it probably should have been taken down or covered, but yeah, you know, kids will survive, I imagine.
You got it. This one coming in from Taylor Age. By the way, I want to remind you folks, we are looking for meaningful questions. If you're just insulting either of the guests, we're not looking for that. It doesn't contribute to a meaningful Q&A. This one from Taylor H says, I am admittedly impressed by Vosh's ability to outpace his opponents. Says, then though, they say pushing sex on kids will lead to homeschooling to escape your ideology, Vosh. What are your guys' thoughts on homeschooling and in this context?
Well, I don't think we're talking about pushing sex on anyone, but there were also threats to for a wave of homeschooling following the racial integration back in the 1960s. You know, believing that like stuffed up white suburban fundy parents are going to take their kids out of school because they don't want to like have them learn that trans people exist. I mean, this is very much a cell phone as far as I'm concerned. It basically just means you're getting outpaced and dabbed on by the clock of history turning away from you. It's not an evidence of harm against the kids.
You got it. Any thoughts, Alex?
I think homeschooling now is probably beneficial to a lot of these kids. I might have thought a little different a few years ago, but if you look at libs of TikTok, not even trying to expose it. A lot of these teachers in this day and age have gone. I think the public school system has become very weird. And when I was a young kid, there's a lot of teachers and coaches that slept with students. So I think that's just something that's happened forever. Is it happening more? Maybe, I don't know. But I think that that's just something that if you want to protect your kid from that happening, I think homeschool is one of the better ways to do that.
It is true. Sexual molestation of children by school teachers isn't at all uncommon, outpaced only by the church and the home itself as potential sources of harm to children.
Stupid Over Energy says, always impressed by Alex. And question for Alex, you got a fan out there, Alex, says, are you a blimp on a pimp eating steak and shrimp?
Always, but I'm a vegetarian, so it's vegan shrimp and vegan steak. But
very nice,
plant-based. Bill Gates synthetic meat.
Thank you very much for your trollish super chat. Says I'm a beta boy. I appreciate that. Handel says, James, listen, I need you to ask each Alex and Vosh to define drag queen show. It's very serious.
I'll go first. I just think a drag queen show is oftentimes either a woman dressing up as a man. I guess that's a drag king. And then I think a drag queen would be a man dressing up as a woman. And I often think that they have, like Vosh said earlier, a peacocking, aspect to it where they do want to bring attention to themselves, which is fine. I think it's very flamboyant with the makeup, a lot of, talented people, talented makeup artists. And I just think it's a way to, I guess, like Lady Gaga, even though she's not, a drag queen, but it's, it's kind of like with her outfits and stuff, even though she's wearing, like Vosh was saying, 15 pounds of clothing, it still accentuates oftentimes the breast and the butt and the frontal vaginal areas.
You got it. Thank you very much for your question or super sticker from Hake of the Hake Report. Your old buddy, Vosh. And Show Vertica says, for Vosh, do you believe that adults can sexually dance towards other people's children in a public setting? Is that okay with you?
I don't know what the fuck any of you guys mean when you say sexually dance. I don't know if is anything beyond swing dancing acceptable. Is there a dance style post Elvis that you're not automatically grooming every child within a 3-state radius of you?
Well, to be fair though, you brought up Dancing with the Stars, which is ballroom dancing, and I know you oftentimes dip the woman, but you're usually doing like a fast-paced waltz. I think that's a little different than like twerking to "Wet Ass Pussy" by
they
do
do some pretty salsa, sexy. Like salsa was literally considered to be like devilish music, wasn't it? Because it was so sexual. Yeah, this keeps happening over and over.
The Baptist church, they couldn't dance. I don't think we're at that.
They get pretty down and dirty in that show. Look, whatever the case is, I don't know what you mean. Look, I don't think adults should be making any fucking moves on kids or whatever. And I do think there are totally situations that are inappropriate. It's just not, it's very confusing to me, I say sarcastically, that every time the right finds something that's harming kids, it has something to do with gay or trans people. They'll find, somehow, you've all these real obvious things. that are affecting them. Or like, for example, grooming in the home, like homeschooling to your shit, opposing Me Too, opposing sex ed, by the way. Sex ed for children is one of the best ways of preventing child grooming. Like, they'll take the wrong stances on all those things, but then all of a sudden they're very, very careful to protect the kids when it comes to like doing things that would suppress the political rights of gender nonconforming people. They did this with gays back in the 80s. The whole like having a gay teacher means they're going to groom their students or whatever. So like the leading question, I think Vosh should be able to dance sexually at kids. Like, I don't know what the fuck you mean by sexually. I think there are plenty of things adults can do that are inappropriate around children, and I think that we should be honest when we talk about them.
Well, I have one question though, Vosh, because now there are, when you talk about, and Bill Maher said this, he was a liberal, the amount of kids that are transitioned or even that come out as gay or trans or what, LGBTQ has skyrocketed compared to like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Oftentimes every generation it doubles. So do you think that's only because people are more okay with it? Or do you think it's possible there could be some externality that's causing this increase?
I think what we are is a product of our innate desires and our environmental influences reflected back onto us. I think that the fact that for hundreds of years, well, yeah, I say, and of course I'm talking about compulsory heterosexuality. For literally tens of thousands of years, humans have been fucking the same sex as themselves, and only in Christendom, well, not only, of course, but as a product of Christendom, the repressive Christian nationalist state, persecution against people who do this perfectly natural thing has been lethal for many hundreds of thousands of people throughout history. I think that what we're seeing right now actually is a closer return to normalcy. Wherever the greatest, wherever the pendulum swings, the idea that the natural state of humanity is this insane, repressive, denial of the existence of gay and trans people, that ain't it, I don't know if there is a true point, but it sure as fuck was not where we were before.
You got it. This one coming in for you, Alex. Secret XX Stars says, does Alex believe that the harm of child sexual abuse and grooming in general primarily stems from kids finding the abuse they went through arousing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, because oftentimes when they're touched, they probably, do have a stimulation that's positive. I think like if you touch a kid, whether you're male or female, they're confused. And I think if they have some sort of positive interaction, I think that, that could be very bad,
You got it. And this one coming in from P. Barnes, a critic, apparently, says yesterday it was CRT, today it's drag shows, tomorrow it will be something else. The world will keep moving, and conservatives like Alex will keep shadow boxing.
I'm confident.
Alex, any thoughts?
I mean, listen, I think kids are being over-sexualized. I think I just said that stat. It's kind of overwhelmingly in liberal cities where, more kids are having gender, reassignment surgery or gender hormone stuff. So I personally think there's externalities or stuff that, social situations that are causing this change. So I don't think it's necessarily organic. So shadow boxing against that, I don't know. I guess just bringing kind of awareness so we can talk about it in an adult manner, in a realistic manner. And listen, there are people that are born intersex. There's people that are born gay. There's people that are born trans, or they're not in the right body. I don't think that doesn't exist. I'm just thinking that it's maybe happening at a rate that seems unnatural to what I think would be natural, I guess, in society, in my opinion.
You got it. This one coming in from Mr. Monster says, I don't think it's appropriate for children to be around adults who are stripping, yet not all drag shows have stripping. Where do we draw the line at the drag shows? Vosh, in particular, I think they're looking for a concrete, what is the kind of behavior where it's kind of okay, come on, back it off.
I don't know if there's a hard line here, because so much of this is contextual. Obviously, a person wearing the equivalent of a bikini in a bar, that would be considered a stripper. But if you're at the beach, basically everyone's dressed like that. You can go to a bathhouse in Japan, that's still a thing over there, and literally just take a shower to clean yourself, then bathe around just people. That can just happen. I think it's sex segregated, and that's not considered weird. But there's just so much variance. I feel like what we have to do, I think, is we have to be understanding of the kind of cultural ambiguity in a lot of contexts, while at the same time listen, okay, you can take this as a W if you want, but I will admit I do feel like there are a lot of people who are so defensive given the culture war status right now, that they're not willing to have any kind of conversation. about what a good, like, child-friendly drag show might be. I don't think it's a big social issue. I think this is like a super minute, tiny niche community thing. But I feel like that's the kind of thing that gets worked out with time. You know, like we just kind of settle on what seems like an acceptable answer.
But and I guess you know, I don't necessarily agree with that. But you know, when you say you go to the beach, you do see, you know, women in a thong, but you wouldn't take a kid to a topless beach. You know, you wouldn't take a kid to a nude beach. But that, I think there is a line when you come to like places like a beach or a drag show. You wouldn't take them to a super sexualized drag show. I think that would be bad. So I do think there is a line where it crosses.
But I think in Europe they actually do. I think nude beaches are considered like a pretty, at least in Spain, I think they're considered like a pretty
I don't know about that.
Sexual thing. I think it would depend.
I don't think children would go to nude beaches, Vosh.
Well, it's. I mean, you know.
I've been to a nude beach. I didn't see any kids. So.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you had a good time. You know, like it's like one of those. It's like one of those. You know, like if a person's walking around topless in the streets today, it's like that's really weird. But then you go to like some like tribal society and all the women have their tits out. You know, there's so much weirdness there.
Yeah, but the tribal thing's a little different. Like seeing a Native African person when it's part of that's a little different. Seeing a National Geographic than like a woman walking down the street at Ralph's naked. But okay, sorry.
Well, I agree that it's different. It's contextually different. But like that context, it doesn't mean that there isn't meaning to the context. I think what we should really be chasing here is harm. Can we identify and measure psychological harm by certain variables? And like, we should build our understanding of what's acceptable around that. And I mean, there are plenty of psychiatrists who study stuff like that, you know? It's one of the reasons why in the past 20 or so years, it's been more commonly accepted that spanking is a form of child abuse, because psychiatrists have gotten way louder about how it does like basically nothing beneficial, you know? Anyway, I'm just saying, like, people do talk about this stuff. It's not like a silent subject or anything.
This one coming in from Joey Rogers says, where does the odd accent that Alex has come from? Alex, do you have an accent?
I mean, I'm from Texas. I talk kind of nasally. I don't know. I'm from Dallas. But yeah, I mean, I'm from Texas, but like I'm a city slicker, so maybe that's why. I don't know. I guess I have a weird voice.
Tremendous voice. Secular Pagan Mum says, not all drag shows are men or in bars. Many are outdoors and family friendly. Drag kings exist too. Drag kings and queens have so much imagination. Peace sign, heart, unicorn.
I assume that was a pro.
Well, any thoughts? All right, we'll go to the next one. Coffee Mom says, is a drag show more quote-unquote sexualized than a day at the beach? I've seen men with boobs. That isn't confusing for a child? Question mark?
Question mark? I mean, it can be if you see some 300-pound guy with a big old set of honkers. Yeah, yes, I mean, that's not necessarily great. But I think it's a little different. It's a little different going to the beach than going to a strip club, because the beach is a fun place. You know, kids should go to the beach, in my opinion. I don't think kids should go to drag clubs, in my opinion.
You can see how, given a different set of cultural context, it might be the other way, right? Like if we lived in a landlocked country or whatever with a strong tradition of like ceremonial dance, maybe stuff like drag would be treated super normal. But then it's like, oh, you went over to Portugal and brought your kids to a beach where women are all wearing bikinis. Like, isn't that weird? Like, why would you want your kid like all around those and guys in like bathing shorts? Like so much of this just comes down to the bird thing. So much of it is like, what do we personally have a bias towards or against?
Well, I disagree with you on the bird. I don't think that that's a very good analogy. But regardless, I don't think, you know, exposing kids to sexual stuff like Hooters. People are like, oh, well, they can go to Hooters. I don't think you should bring young kids to Hooters either.
Speaking of sexualized, Steven Stein says, I can't believe Alex when he says he hasn't had sex when he's so unusually sexy. You had a fan out there, Alex. Next up.
Well, come take my virginity.
This one from Mr.
Causing
Monster
gender
says,
confusion to the 15-year-olds in my audience.
Let's see.
I apologize.
Daka Shindansi says, Vosh, what are your thoughts on Queen Latisha being next to a naked man and Desmond is amazing pretending to do ketamine? Is this not grooming kids? Did I get it wrong? Is that Queen Lactatia, or is this, did they mean Letitia? Queen Latifah, I can't remember the name of the star from like 15 years ago.
I'm going to keep it fully 100 with you. I have no goddamn idea what that person is referring to.
Well, you know, Desmond is amazing, though. You know that kid where there's a viral video where he's like in the street and he's hanging out with some other gay people. He's like, and the kid's kidding, I hope. He's like, oh, I like to do ketamine. I like to do this, because he's repeating like what they see. And this is another part. and I'm not anti-gay people, but in gay culture, there's oftentimes poppers, there's drugs, and there's in all cultures there's drugs. I'm saying college culture, there's drugs. You wouldn't want young kids at a college bar. So I'm just saying it's kind of weird when you see that Desmond is an amazing kid and he's around these super adult themed stuff. It's not good when he's making jokes about using drugs.
I'm trying to frantically Google to get context, and I'm only getting more confused, so I can't.
Google Desmond is amazing, a trans kid. He's a kid that's been on all the major outlets, NBC. He's danced at.
Oh, is this that kid? Oh yeah, I don't like this. I don't like kids doing any kind of modeling stuff, drag or otherwise. The drag thing isn't what issues here, or is what is at issue with me here. It's it's just any kind of modeling for a young person. I think young people should be able to like. If young people are going to worry about their appearances, I think it should be because they're like 12 and they just developed a crush on their like 8th grade classmate, not because they have adults who are like getting them ready for their big like TV appearance. And they have to cover up all the acne or whatever. Let kids live, Yeah, I don't know.
This one coming in from Fernandez T. Thanks for your comment. Says Vosh equals word games, Stein equals logic. Right.
True. Wait, I had the Rubik's cubes. That was my thing. I made that joke. I've never saw the Rubik's cube in my life.
Jupiter Darman says, Alex, could it be confusing or abusive to kids to see a grown man posting videos of himself in women's swimsuits? Same thing? I think they're referring to your lewd and lascivious videos of you in a woman's swimsuit.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, I think that is I am in a swimsuit, yeah. But I mean, I think I'm all covered up. So, yeah, I mean, a little bit. It could be a little lewd. I'm not going to lie about that.
That's Alex spelled ALEXXX. And Brandon
I'm gender
Hansen
confusing
says,
people. Yeah, I am. I'm a gender confuser. So, shows you I'm not a hypocrite. I mean, I admit it.
I feel like I'm getting owned in the free marketplace of ideas because every single conservative pundit has worn women's clothing more often than I have. I feel like I need to step
exactly. I'm gender fluid, so that's just so I win this debate because I'm more likely attached to this. I'm more likely to do drag.
Definitely a repressor. Yeah, 100%. So it's out there.
This one from Brandon Hansen, another fan, Alex. They say, Alex, big fan, love what you do, and keep it going, man. This one from Jesse.
Keep it going, woman. But yes, I'll take it. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support.
This one coming in from Justin R. What is this Sam Hyde? They say, Justin R says, Vosh, how much money to fight Sam Hyde? I don't know who Sam Hyde is. Should I know?
He's an internet comedian. He's a legend.
I'd have to spend that money pretty quickly. He's a crypto nut. Wait, is he even crypto Nazi?
I think
I'd have to spend that money. I'd have to spend that money real fucking quick because that dude would obliterate me. Are you fucking kidding me? No,
he's huge, yeah.
Yeah, okay, listen, when he initiates the race war, okay, I'm gonna make sure there's I'm gonna make sure I'm a few blocks down the road from that guy. He boxes for fun, like constantly, doesn't he? Yeah, there's no shot.
He wants to box everybody. Wings of Redemption. He wants to box Boogie. He wants to box all the internet meme lords.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm behind. But
he wants to box Hassan is who he wants to box the most.
I mean,
did he mention Vosh?
No, I don't know. They're probably just trolling.
This one, okay, I found out who Queen Lactatia is. It's not Queen Latifah. It's a drag queen 9-year-old. And this is a 9-year-old drag queen, Teen Vogue says, inspires us to live colorfully. And this is that super chat earlier said, Vosh, thoughts on Queen Lactatia being next to a naked man. So apparently, I think they're saying, are you going to draw the line there, Vosh?
I mean, I've already drawn the line at like young models. If this person's a 9-year-old, I don't even know shit about the naked guy thing. I'm not Googling child drag king naked. I'm not Googling any set of, I'm not piecing this together. Okay. But yeah, it's probably bad, whatever it is. Look, again, I'm not like a hardliner on this. There are absolutely things that go on that I think are unacceptable that I guess like some pro drag people or whatever would defend. I just don't think it's a big cultural issue. With 8 billion people on the planet, if you want to focus a microscope on any subculture, you're going to find issues. But I feel like in this case, it would be like trying to say it's inappropriate for people to game because of like the smash tourney, like molestation bullshit, you know, or like Sky Epstein's house or whatever. It's like you're taking such a thing and then it's getting blown up into this gigantic fucking culture war issue. It's like, holy shit, you know, we're not even splitting hairs here. We're doing the little apple decor on the hairs to split it into 8 even, you know, lateral sections. I'm rambling. Yeah, anyway, sorry, go on.
You got it. This one coming in from interesting. Dark Bag says, Vosh, what about you? They say, Vosh, if you had kids, would you bring them to a drag queen show?
Absolutely not. I get super bored of that. No, sorry, listen, drag queen shows are full of annoying gay men, all right? And as an annoying gay man, one of me is enough. No, I like it in general, like if I had kids or whatever, there have been a couple of drag events that I have gone to that like you could totally bring kids to, like no issue whatsoever. It would be as vacuous as bringing them to like basically any other event.
Well, I want to make one point too. It's like, I think some of these legislation, they want to make it a felony for a parent to, you know, go to, I think that's a little over punitive, but I don't think kids should be at drag shows, but I think they're going, like you said, a little bit of the gay panic, I guess. Sorry. Yeah,
it's it can go a little extreme there. Yeah, I don't know. I think that stuff can be fun. I think like oftentimes a lot of it is just because kids really like costumes. So like drag queens are pretty good at doing big ostentatious costumes. So I think that can be appealing. I don't know. Some good fashion advice you can get there if you care about that.
Gotcha. This one, only a couple more questions left. We'll let these guys go. They're busy guys. Brandon Hansen says, Vosh, communism as practiced after WW2 was right about LGBTs. And if, I don't know what they mean by that, they say, and if the USA becomes communist, I look forward to what's going to happen to that group.
It's a genocide joke. The Soviet Union criminalized homosexuality under Stalin, but this person hasn't done their research. See, I know more about hating the Soviet Union than they do. The only reason homosexuality was decriminalized prior was because of the abolition of the czarist criminal system. In practice, de facto, homosexuals were still sent to camps even under Lenin's regime. So you're gonna have to wake up pretty early in the morning to know more negative things about the USSR than me, buddy.
Well, but to that point, so communism is not gay for the good. Communism would not be beneficial for the gay community.
Well, there's nothing about communism that's inherently anti-gay, but of course the Soviet Union wasn't communism. The closest we've ever gotten to real like queer liberation has come currently from liberal democracies. Of the many things liberals get wrong, individual freedoms are one of the things they struck pretty close to right on. So we'll see if we can't improve on that. Make people even gayer in the future. You know how it is.
You got it. This one coming in from Ayangamedud3 says, Alex, in your opening statement, you stated that strip clubs are, quote, less damaging, unquote, than drag shows.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Gotcha.
I think they're equally damaging going to a heterosexual strip club or a drag show. I think that would be negative, and it could have a long-lasting effect. The first time, I still remember the first time I saw a woman in a bra. I told you earlier, Teen Wolf. Like, I remember, I forget the character's name, but the girl that Michael J. Fox was trying to date, and then he turned into a wolf, he ended up dating her. That girl, I mean, that was, I think, the first time I was ever aroused. I remember it was like it was yesterday. So I do think the first time you're exposed to something, it can have a lasting impression that lasts your whole entire life. So that's why I think it's not good to bring young kids to these situations where they have, now I see a pair of breasts, I don't even flinch because I'm so desensitized to it. So
well, look at that. That was your
sensitivity level.
That was your opening experience, and you turned into a fine, strapping young man. So, if anything, that's a positive argument in my favor.
I appreciate that. Well, I mean, you know, go figure. But that's what I'm saying. Well, then to your point though, is like when you see it and you have a positive sexual experience, and then you find out the person was transgender or was a drag queen, it could cause some sexual confusion. That's my point.
You got it. Go away. I can't tell if this is a serious question or if they're being playful. It says, is it okay for kids to watch political Twitch streamers? Is there any reason it wouldn't be?
Yeah, every reason. Please, God, absolutely not. Holy shit, no.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know why. I think I really, like, I mean, I've gotten political, but I'm kind of anti-political. I'm anti-politics. I think if you idolize a politician, that's like thinking the stripper likes you. You know, so yeah, I don't think we should expose kids to ultra-political things too young. No way. They need to have a childhood. It's like Michael Jackson, because he didn't have a childhood. And I defend Michael Jackson to the death. I believe that Wade Robinson and James Safechuck are liars, but I don't want to get on that tangent. I don't think Michael Jackson ever molested a kid. I just think that he suffered from terrible arrested development. But that's what I'm saying, is when you give a kid and you make them grow up too fast, then they have what is called arrested development. And then they, you know, in older age, they yearn for that, you know, young.
There's no way what MJ did, even if he didn't molest a kid, all that would have had to have fit your gender confusion definition, right? Like he was like the most he'd like invite kids to the Neverland Ranch.
But this is why, Vosh, because Macaulay Culkin and then what's the other guy that had all the sexual Corey Feldman? They all said that they hung out with Michael Jackson for years. Literally, they hung out with him for years, and he never once did anything sexual or had any sexual connotation. So,
but I don't know. He talked.
Well, and this is the other thing. Well, Wade Robinson. Well, he did dance, but he didn't dance as a woman. But Wade Robinson, one of the person that said he was molested by Michael Jackson, he actually testified on his behalf twice and was cross-examined by the California's top prosecutor, and both times said Michael Jackson never did anything to him. And then conveniently, 5 months after Michael Jackson died, his story changed. So for me, that's why I think it's weird.
Well, I'm not an expert on any of the MJ stuff, but I can testify with with an expert's knowledge that he did in fact dance like a woman later in his career.
Yeah, but he didn't dress as a woman. He didn't dress as a woman. He always wore the shoulder pads. Find me a picture of Michael Jackson in drag. I'll send you 500.
Shoulder pads were big for women back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, but come on, Vaughn. Come on. We're having semantic. He didn't wear a dress. I mean, maybe if he did for one of his music videos or something, but I don't think so.
This one coming in, last one, squeaks it by the little time limit we have, is Brandon Hansen. Thanks very much. Says, Vosh, in the communist revolution, are you going to be the Twitch streamer or ditch digger? Alex will be an official party member and in high office. Great.
Godspeed. Well, wait. First of all, no communism that I support has a high up party member. Okay. Don't you put your goddamn Marxist, Leninist, Maoist, Vanguard partyist bullshit on me. And second of all right, I'm going to be proud, okay? I'm going to be proud to be the trench digger. You ever talk to a guy who's digged ditches his whole life and not heard an interesting story or two? I'm proud to serve the proletariat. Also, I'm physically infirm and my back is shit, so I'll do a bad job, I'll put the work off onto my comrades.
Well, that's what they try to do in prison. The people try to act like they're disabled to work in prison, and then they give them a worse job. So I think that could happen. But
shit, you're right. I might have to pull double time.
With that, want to say, folks, our guests are linked in the description box. That includes, if you're listening to this via the podcast, as all the debates are uploaded to the Modern Day Debate podcast, where we put our guest links in the description box there as well, in case you want to learn more about their views. It has been a true pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you very much, Vosh and Alex. The pleasure is all mine. Thanks for being with us tonight.
The pleasure's been mine. Thank you.
Been a pleasure. 3 pleasures.
So much pleasure. I'll be right back in just a moment for the post-credits scene with updates on upcoming debates, such as the one at the bottom right of your screen. So hit subscribe for many more debates coming up, and I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to see you. Oh, pumped to say hello to you in chat. Man, we got a lot of nasty spam stuff in the chat tonight. Naked HD says cheapest sex dating. Oh my. Well, all right. We're hiding those people. Don't worry. We're hiding those bots. But I want to say thanks so much for being with us. I see you there in the old live chat. Joshua Larson, good to have you. Slang, glad you were here. Vosh fan, happy to have you. Troy Collins, hope you're doing well. As well as XRP Patriot, a.k.a. the Crypto Ghost. Thanks for coming by. And Tom Jones, glad you were here. Elaine Sabatino, happy to have you with us. Michael, or is it Michelle Tremblay? Is it? Let me know. Glad to have you with us. As well as Justin R. and Jeffrey Rodrigo Echeverria. Let me know if I pronounced it right, rolling the R. We're glad that you were here, Jeffrey, as well as Brandon Hansen, good to see you, and Rock E. Shepherd. Nikki, good to see you again. Regular viewer, you've been hanging out here for a long time. Is it years already, Nikki? Jackson Hammercock, thank you for being here with us. And Joe Arn, glad to have you with us. And La Tornado, pumped that you are here, as well as Andrew. Thanks for your being with us tonight. Says, how do you choose these topics? Actually, this was one that Alex said, hey, find me somebody that wants to debate this topic. And I said, okay, well, let me ask around. And I was like, Vosh oftentimes goes for these kind of fun, kind of like more provocative topics. So I asked Vosh, what would you disagree with Alex on this? And so he's like, sure. Well, there's another spammer. Oh, goodness gracious. What is with it? It's always sex stuff with the spammers. It's not like they're ever trying to sell you anything else or trying to, bait you into clicking on some other type of link. Like if they were just selling something like steel cut oats, it's always about sex. But just like as Robert California would say, it's always, he says, like it's always boils back down to sex. But Max Phoenix, thanks for being with us, as well as Jeremy Nolan, pumped to have you with us. And Get Real, good to see you again. Gloopy Gloiper, thanks for coming by, as well as La Tornado. And Troy Collins says, happy to be here. I can't see it. Let's see. It's like symbols for me, so I don't know how to say your name in terms of you have an orange avatar with a Chinese symbol. I think it's a Chinese symbol. It says you have the sexiest spam bots. Thank you so much. You appreciate that. General Balzac, thanks for being here. And thanks for all of our mods. We try to have a lot of flexibility in the old live chat. We want you guys to be able to say what you want, for real. Obviously, we have to follow YouTube terms of service. We do it because you might be thinking like, oh, you're like aligned with their ethics. Not really. So it's not that so for the record, like I don't like it. I don't like when people are mean to each other. I hope people get along. But we want to let you guys, if you guys want to give each other crap, like, yeah, fine, whatever. And if you want to give me crap, like, hey, I'll take it. I kind of like it. But the thing is, we have to follow YouTube terms of service because in a very practical way, even those of you who are like radically for free speech and you're like, no, James, break the rules of YouTube. It's like, well, okay, but YouTube actually is a marketing machine for us YouTubers. They promote our videos like crazy. The impressions that we get on our videos are pretty big. We have grown a lot because YouTube recommends our videos. In fact, that's the primary way that we've probably grown. And so we do follow the YouTube terms of service because it makes sense. We don't want to cut off the branch that we're sitting on by breaking their rules and then they don't promote us as much. Because, hey, we are grateful that we have grown and we want to say thank you guys for helping us grow. You guys, seriously, I appreciate it. I want to say you guys have helped this channel in very real ways. And sometimes you guys think I'm just saying that because it's supposed to be like a fake humility or something. No, it's not. Here's a way, very practical way. The Q&A is a portion of the debate that people enjoy. They usually like kind of hearing all these different thoughts and ideas. You guys supply the questions for the Q&A, so we appreciate that. That always mixes things up, gets new ideas in, and people are like, oh, okay, yeah, this person's got an interesting question. I hadn't thought of that. That's one way. Also, though, no joke, if you happen to share our debates, if you like these topics, and maybe you're like, hey, maybe you know of a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer, and you're like, I bet they love this channel. They usually like debates on politics just like me. You could share this video by clicking the share button down below. It's waiting for you. It says share on it. And if you share this video, which a lot of you, I can see in our stats in the YouTube Creator Studio, it shows me, we get a ton of shares. So you guys do share our content a lot. And that, for real, that's a big deal. Word of mouth is a big deal. It really, if I go on Twitter and I share our link, it's not very credible because they're like, well, yeah, of course, James, you say that it's like a great link and that people should check it out because you're like kind of like running modern day debate. Like, it doesn't really have as much credibility, right? Because it's like you're just promoting your own links, James, or, like. However, if you share it, you're a third party. It's a lot more credible because you're a lot more objective or neutral. And so people really do take that seriously. So we do appreciate when you share videos. That helps a lot. And then We are at a whopping 324 likes right now. So thank you guys for hitting like. That really does help. We're only 6 away from hitting the 330 mark. Let's get to, how about this? Let's shoot for a third of 1,000, which would be if we can get 333 and 1/3 likes, we will be at technically one, we'll just say 0.3 repeating. We will be at 1/3 of 1,000 likes already for this video. That is huge, you guys. Seriously, it really does help. As YouTube says, hey, yeah, we do use that. It kind of factors into the algorithm where the more engagement, whether it be comments or likes that a video gets, the more that video will be recommended to other people. So that really does help us. If you've ever wondered how it works, if you want to dislike, that helps pretty much, just as well, frankly. That's what I've been told. I don't know. I'm curious myself. I'm like, really? I don't know. Frankly, I kind of wonder. I kind of think it probably is true. The reason is, I don't think, because YouTube is a business, I would guess that they care more about like, ouch, I just like jammed my finger. Okay, so I think that, don't worry, I'm all right. Is that YouTube cares about how long people watch videos, and for them, if disliking a video is more highly correlated with, or you could say strongly correlated with watching it longer, I would guess YouTube probably does count it just as good, even though it's kind of sick in a way, because you're probably disliking it because you're unhappy or angry, but YouTube is like neglecting that. It's like, and maybe they even recommend it to you more, because if you watched it longer while disliking it, which I wouldn't be surprised if people do, because there is something about something that makes you angry. You're more engaged because you at least care. You're not bored. That's the last thing that YouTube can have you be, is like YouTube can do a lot of things. It's kind of like when you're dating a lady. Just trust me, lads. Okay. You can do a lot of things to a woman, but you can't make her bored. And likewise, YouTube can't make people bored because people are just going like, forget it. They walk away. So that's right. I don't know what your name is. You've got to let me know what I can call you. But I see your orange emoticon and you say hate viewers are valuable viewers. That's right. Hate watchers, you could call them as well. It really helps. Max Phoenix, thanks for being with us. I see you there in the old live chat, as well as Chirp the Bandit. Glad you were with us, as well as Perpetually Annoyed. Good to have you here. Eric Nelson, happy to have you. Swampy Pubes, good to see you again. Bezos Anti-Bullying Agency, thanks for your support. Appreciate that. It's all just optical illusions. I'm using like filters and stuff. And Jackson, okay, let's see. IL, is that how you spell your name? Let me know. We're glad you were with us. Willie Keenan, happy to have you here. Triumph the Insult Dog, thanks for coming by. Andrew says, I'm glad you support my right to be an unbored woman. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we don't want you to be bored. It's important. Let me tell you. Jordan, happy to have you here, says, lady, did you call me? That's right. Ladies and gentlemen. Because a lady or a gentleman is someone who always tries to make those around them as comfortable as possible. You know what movie I got that from? Let me know if you guys recognize that from chat. That's what a gentleman is. It also a lady too, but in the movie that's how they define a gentleman. Scott from Space, thanks for coming by, says 100% hate watchers are everywhere. That's true. And that's the funny thing. Like sometimes, and I like probably should just leave them be, because it's like, hey, if they're watching, that's good. Just leave them alone, James. Is that sometimes I see people who on Twitter will say, I'm boycotting Modern Day Debate because they hosted this topic and it offended me, or they hosted this person and I'm offended. And then like 2 weeks later, I'll see them watching in the live chat and I'll even say, I'm like, I thought you were boycotting us. Come on. In a way, I'm like everybody. I would like to be liked by everybody. I would like people to fear how much they like me. But at the same time, there's a sick part of me that kind of likes it when we do get like a big backlash. Like when we get a lot of people who are really like, boycott modern day debate, burn them at the stake. That's where I'm kind of like, I don't know why. I have to be honest with you guys. I don't know what's with me. And I'm not a counseling major, but I'm getting my PhD in psychology. And I kind of wonder about that. I'm like, there's a very healthy dose of defiance in me that I just kind of, it motivates me when I see that. I really kind of like get off to that non-sexually. Aaron M., thanks for coming by. I see you there in the old live chat. And let's see. Get Real says, that's blast from the past, modern day debate. You're right. It is blast from the past. That was really good. That's right. Blast from the past with Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone. I can't remember the other fellow. He was always happy. You get that joke from the movie? And then General Balzac says, is boycott modern day debate still a thing? Yeah, every once in a while. I see it on Twitter. I saw it like a month ago on Twitter because we hosted Richard Spencer in an abortion debate. So controversial topic, controversial people. And, you know, as you guys know, I don't agree with everybody we have on the channel. Obviously. I mean, in most cases, it's impossible because it would be a contradiction to agree with both. By the way, there's like one view out there that like really ticks me off the most, and you might be thinking like, oh, is it those pro-lifers or those pro-choicers? Or, oh, is it those, atheists or Christians or whatever? You're thinking like, no. The view that drives me up the wall, the one that I'm just like, oh, gosh, like when people say like, oh, everybody's right, everybody's true, like, where it's like, that is like please. General Balsack says, but yes, there are people. And Sideshow Nav says James in his sick mind. It's true. I kind of like it. It's like I get fired up and excited. Jeremy Nolan says some men want to see the world burn, James. That's true. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But Daniel Griff says pretty soon people are going to think drag queen is a suggestion. I don't know. Jordan says nothing is black and white. Daniel, let's see. Jordan says two-dimensional minds, man. Jordan, are you one of those people that says everybody is right? Because Jordan, seriously, I'll come out there into the chat. And I was like, Amanda, good to see you. Golden Toad, thanks for coming by. Says, did you just assume my gender? As well as Jeffrey Rodrigo, thanks for being here, bud. And Daz72 Dan, happy to have you with us. Let me tell you. Death Bulk, happy to have you here. The Boogie 2988 defense. We've tried. I've invited Boogie. I could have sworn. I'm wondering if he emailed, like if he responded. I can't remember if he responded in the email I sent him. But anyway, we've like odds are good. If you see somebody out there and you're like, I wonder if James has invited them. Like we've probably invited like an awful lot. There's so many emails I sent. I'm not complaining. Like this is just part of the territory of modern day debate because we always we want to get new guests. There are a lot of debates, like debaters or people out there that I ask, like, hey, would you like to come on? And I get no response. Sad. But I never get angry. I never feel like, because it would be so entitled and gross if we were like, like they don't even respond. It's like, well, people are busy. I don't blame them. That's all right. That, I mean, hey, not everybody's cup of tea to do debates. It's all right. Scott S., thanks for coming by, as well as Maximo Mantero says, do you take debate suggestions? How do you go about what debate topics will occur? We're open to ideas. So if you happen to have ideas, let me know. Like, that works for me. And you can do it in the comments. You can do it in the social tab. So if I post in the social tab, sometimes I'll do that. I'm at moderndaydebate@gmail.com. Pretty hard to forget. It's just our name at Gmail if you wanted to reach out there. It's, like, I got to be honest, though. Like, there are certain topics. Yeah, but we're selective about, because a lot of people like maybe say, hey, you should do this topic. And like, sometimes it's like, oh, we should. That's great. Like that happens. And at the same time, like sometimes they're like, hey, you should debate like what year was like the Wall of China put up or something. I'm like, it's like, I don't know if people are going to go for that. Maybe. So Brondo has electrolytes, but Andrew says, I just debated gun control. I'll come on. Possibly. So that topic, I got to be honest, it's okay, but I've actually found gun control, it hasn't really engaged our debaters that much. I'm open to it, but it actually is like one of those topics that surprisingly it's like meh. It's kind of a meh topic. You know what is surprisingly maybe the like most let's see, unpopular topic, no joke. It's probably like the least popular, where everybody, a lot of times people are like, oh, but it's edgy, James, and it's taboo, so it'll work. You should do this topic. Topics on sexuality per se don't do as well. So for example, like we can have like atheism versus Christianity, what is true? That'll usually do pretty well. Like that fits, like it's kind of our flagship topic. We started with philosophy of religion, debates. But if you did like which worldview is more like gives a better foundation for sexuality being more pleasurable, or like what group, Christians or atheists, are like have greater sexual satisfaction in their lives, like that will completely crash and burn. No one will show up. I'm telling you, debates on sexuality per se don't do well. Now you might be like, well, what about like this one tonight? And it's like, well, this one tonight isn't like per se on sexuality, like it's not as like directly to that issue. It's more about like is okay for so it's not the same. Come on, they're certainly not synonymous, like this topic and but Vanessa Halgwin says Jeff Durbin for anything to do with pro-evangelical. I'd be happy to have Jeff. I think I've gotten a response from him before. I'd be open to hosting him if you wanted to. And so that could be cool. And we'd like to have him on. So that'd be cool. And Scott S., thanks for coming by, says pineapple pizza. Pineapple, yes. We could always do that topic. Pineapple on pizza, maybe. And Andrew says, that one comes up all the time. Andrew says, I don't really care about gun control, but I have a show you can look at to evaluate. That might work, Andrew. Possibly. It depends. It really honestly. And the other thing is we usually have new people. We usually have them in a tag team at least once before we have a solo debate with them, just to see like how they'll kind of hold up in the kind of spotlight, you could say. And then Anton the Wall, thanks for being with us, as well as a scapegoat, says, what would pull in some subs is James hosting shirtless. Thank you very much for being here, Tina Hodgestetler. Thanks for being here. Let's see. Joshua Larson says James going to spice it up with a necrophilia debate. That would trigger Twitter, and that's why I would enjoy doing it. Let's see. Maximo Mantero says, have you done a black pill / incel debate? We have done a debate on incel. It was more of a conversation between a gentleman who was incel and a woman who is an expert on incel stuff, and she was great. They both did a fantastic job. I'm trying to remember, the reason I bring her up is because she had a popular podcast. I just have to find it. I follow her on Twitter. I just can't remember like where she is. But Anime POTUS on Twitter says this debate is incredible. I'm so glad that they enjoyed it. That's encouraging. But yeah, I should probably go soon. So I do want to say, you guys, I want to say thanks for being with me. Thanks for hanging out here. It's always fun to do this after show thing. Steven Stein, I'm going to read your super chat in its fullness. Bubble Gaming, thanks for being with us. We are glad you are here. And let's see here. Good old Alex Stein, though, that was lively to say the least. And one extra fun one. And yeah, I've got to tell you, that was juicy to say the least. It was really fun, and I really do appreciate it. So it was, yeah, I got to tell you, I had a good time. These are fun summer nights when we get to host these big debates like this. This is Vosh and Alex is a blast. But let me get back to that super chat in case Steven Steen, that nasty guy, is listening because he wants to hear his nasty comment read. Secular Pagan Mom said, did I miss my comment in super chat? Shout out. I did read yours, no joke. So it is in the Q&A. If you want to go back, you'll be able to find it. And it is in there because I know I for sure remember seeing your name and reading it. And let me go into, let's see, super chats. I'm going to open this up. Nasty guy, Steven Stein. Stein, I actually completely, let's see. He said, appreciate James representing trans beta community. Being born in an alpha's body, but mentally a beta is a tough lot to cast. Stay strong, beta boy. That's a good phrase too. A tough lot to cast. I like that. Is a tough lot to cast. I'm going to use it. I just like figurative language. And it's good job, Stephen. In addition to calling me a beta baby or a beta boy, I like that. Is a tough lot to cast. I'm going to use that. And then Samantha said, Alex isn't even synced up. I saw that earlier in the live chat. It's true, Samantha. That was something that I don't know why. It wasn't until after the debate started that I noticed it, and then I was like, ooh, well, it's too late to restart now and to have Alex leave and come back. So I was kind of like, we're stuck with it. But thanks for your super sticker as well of the rainbow. Appreciate that, secular pagan mom. So I do, we appreciate your support, and we do. We want to say, folks, we hope you feel welcome as always. Modern Day Debate is, we really do. We want it to be a place that's fair to our guests, as well as we really do want people from different walks of life to be welcomed, whether they be politically left, politically right, Biden backers, Trump supporters, black, white, gay, straight, atheists, Christians, you name it. We are glad that you were here. Muslims, it's just, I could go on all night. There's just everybody. Trans, non-trans, everybody, whatever you are, whoever you are, we are glad that you were here. We appreciate it. It makes it, seriously, I'm not joking, it makes it a more fun community here where we have different perspectives. People are willing to share those. That's a lot of fun. And then I don't know if you guys saw, you guys have probably seen the Destiny versus Vosh debate that we hosted in person. This was already 2 years ago. It was a long time ago. But it was a fun one, and I got to meet both Vosh and Destiny in person, and I really enjoyed it. Seriously. I had, honestly, one of the most fun times ever. If you have not seen that, yeah, this is already 2 years old, which is kind of crazy. I'm like, holy smokes, that is so old. But nonetheless, it's an epic little discussion. It was just like the Between Two Ferns kind of studio. This is, oh, by the way, yeah, and the Wi-Fi didn't work, and we had to oh my gosh. Destiny and Vosh in person. The Wi-Fi didn't work, and we're fortunate that Destiny saved the day. He let us use his data to live stream the entire debate. So that was, seriously, we're really grateful for that in-person debate. If you guys haven't seen that, have you really not seen that? For real. It's out there. But that was one of my favorite in-person debates. So I want to say thanks, guys. I love you guys. Thanks for all your support. I got to go. It's getting late here. It's 9:24 where I am in Mountain Time. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for all of your guys' support of me personally and the channel. You guys make this fun, and seriously, it's a blast. We're excited. You guys, we have a vision of providing a neutral platform so that everybody has their chance to make their case on a level playing field, especially because, folks, think about it. Mainstream media, I think that we at Modern Day Debate can provide a more neutral kind of platform where we give everybody a fair shot. We try to be nonpartisan. And that's because you guys deserve a better class of debate channel or coverage, loosely speaking, of the news. And you may say, James, come on, how can you even compare yourself to CNN or Fox News, whatever it is? Well, hey, it took Joe Rogan about 13 years to get where he is. And we are only 3 years into this. So we are just getting started, my dear friends. This is only the beginning of our story. We are absolutely thrilled about the future. We are continuously working on improving things. That's important to us because it's true. There are things that we can improve on, and we will as we look more carefully at how we do them. As I mentioned, we're working on putting together some in-person debates or kind of panels that are going to be epic. The production value is going to be amazing. It's going to be our version of Middle Ground by Jubilee. If you've probably seen their videos, they're going to be amazing. Want to say, though, I love you guys. Seriously, we're excited about the future. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. Thank you guys for all of your support. I'm excited to see you the next time we have a debate, which we have for sure one this Saturday. That's our plan. That's pictured at the bottom right of the screen. We might also have one on immigration this Friday night. So you don't want to miss them. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Thanks, guys. I love you and excited to see you for the next one.